I love that shit, man. It gets me going. Today I need a little bit more of that too, because we got an important guy in here, and before he's even allowed to talk, I just got to go out and say how many times I've thrown him on this podcast, so everybody already knows I'm on his side. So if he's an asshole, it's on him. But I need more of that Long Cut. Long Cut's got a new album coming out. I want to throw it out there. We're gonna have a new intro to tease you guys with the new album, but we had to play it a little bit longer today because we got a good guy in here today.
That's right, man. Setting the vibe.
Good guy. Super good guy.
Before we kick it off, welcome, guys, to the Day One $0 podcast with your host, Will Grimes.
Co-host.
Co-host? You ain't no co-host.
Dude, I say co-host because if I were single trying to get chicks, I'm so the owner of this. But I'm not. So it's like I got no problem giving you credit.
I'll roll with that.
Man.
Yeah. With your hosts,
Hosts.
Will Grimes and Eli Schmidt.
There we go.
Who do we got on today, bro?
A really good one.
Really good one.
Brian Chontosh. We call him Uncle Tosh around here. And he's just so folks have some credit, it's some context, and this is not going to be the narrative of the show. Tosh has some really good insight on and some good conversations that we're going to have. But just so everyone, if you have not heard our podcast, just give me some context. Brian Chontosh, Marine Corps commander, Navy SEAL recipient, ultra endurance athlete, badass. I've been trying to do stuff with him. It sucks. It's fucking hard. Really good stuff.
Wait a second. Did you say Navy SEAL recipient?
No, Navy Cross recipient.
Okay. I just check Cross. We might have to rewind that.
No. Navy Cross recipient, right?
He ain't receiving any Navy SEALs around here.
Athlete, reads a lot of books, super kind-hearted, sensitive, whatever you want to say. My word for him is transcendent. Look that up. I've been trying to find a word for him. I don't know why I did that, man. I didn't tell you I was doing that. I like looking up new words, and that one fits.
I appreciate it.
Super fitting. Just above and beyond in every aspect that I've observed humans, and you're not going to say that for yourself, but this is our fucking podcast, so I'm going to say it so people have context. But you guys can find Tosh on Crooked Butterfly Podcast. He's got his own there. Super great podcast. You guys can find him on Instagram. Brian Chontosh, look him up. He's got a blue stamp, hard to come by. Good shit. But dive in if you guys enjoy the Andy Frisellas we've had on. A lot of you come from that network. If you guys enjoy Day $1 I promise you're going to enjoy Crooked Butterflies podcast. I promise you're going to enjoy where his thoughts go and how he perceives things and the ability for him to articulate. We're big fans. I served with Brian in the Marine Corps for a while, and really cool. So honored to have him here. Now that we've gotten enough clock going, like we're going to start talking some shit today, because I got some things to say to him. But all good stuff. Topic for today is your relationship portfolio. And this, the cliff notes of that is, hey, are you filtering the relationships you have that, I don't want to call it dead weight. Don't want to say that, but hey, do you have so many in your circle that you're not able to actually dive in and go deep with the relationships that are worth your time in your circle, or having enough time to maybe go dive into new relationships that could also be worth your time? And I don't know if I'm shortcutting you on that, but I think it's good. And I think just before we started this, we were talking about relationships and portfolio, and I'll let you kind of explain that as well. But it's an interesting topic. And before we got on, it also started creating some other subtopics that I thought were super cool. But cliff notes on that for you, just context on the topic today. Is there any other way that you want to articulate that?
No, man, you're on. Just still getting used to getting comfortable to this professional setup that you got.
Isn't that
going
cool?
on here, man. Everything.
Not gonna lie,
fitting in nice, man.
On, man. This is legit. It's
being
a
modest.
Total step up.
Being modest. It's the best podcast in the fucking world
ever.
Anyways, I did that.
I know you did. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
We had what was cool was like we were talking. We probably been hanging out for an hour or so, and just a lot of great conversation around friendships, relationships, being a good person, being around somebody that other people want to be around for no other reasons than just they feel valued. We talked about when we're talking about our little circle that's just kind of growing organically, ever since we got reconnected.
Yeah.
But we're all doing things in our lives. And then when I find out, like, oh, so-and-so was at this event with you, and then, dang, and you guys are talking and now, and then you're talking to so-and-so, and he's talking to so-and-so, and she's talking, and it's like, yeah, it's my favorite collection of people that I like to hang around with, and I know that everybody's providing value to everybody else with no other reason than, to me, that's community, you know, and that's what it's about. And I've been thinking a lot about this for a while. Anyways, you're asking for cliff notes, but we had some great conversations before we started. And then I said, man, we got to start recording. And he started busting my balls. And I was actually enjoying it because it was fun. It reminded me of being in the military together. And
I didn't get to bust your balls that much there. You were kind of in charge.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal, kind of a stud. Like I didn't have anything to say to you, but just yes, sir. Good to go.
Yeah.
Now, you're 97. You know, your hips are a little bit more sore. We don't have a rower in the studio, so we're not doing shit together.
Yeah, no,
you know,
we're safe here.
No means no here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? No means no here. No, I get it. And like, just to give some context to that, right? Like, we got reconnected after the military when I was growing that fitness company. And it was, you were super busy. I was super busy, but I knew you were in Boulder, and we were growing that company. We went from 2 to 14 stores in 2 years. And we were cranking that, and it was great. And, you know, like a little bit of friction there, you know, no bad blood, but it was just time for me to go grow something for myself, right? And talking to Kate, it was like, hey, if you ever thought about putting 16 hours into something that was yours? And I said, no. So then we talked and had that, and you got that. It's like the exciting moment, like, yeah, no, I've never thought that. Oh, I could do it. Let's do it. Right? And like, you're excited. I got an offer from a chain of gyms to come in and be a district level guy, but you're going to start at the manager level. Hey, crush this store here in Colorado for us, this gym. And then we've got plans to move you up, because some of those guys I had history with, they saw what I did with Fit Republic. They were super, super excited to streamline me. So I go run a gym for them and I crush it for grand openings and all this. And they changed my comp plan. And they were like, oh, hey, we've got a new comp plan. Excited to tell you about it. Hey, man, I'll see you tomorrow. Cool. Well, the comp plan was not better.
Not better.
No
for
wonder
you.
why you're excited to talk to me.
Shit,
And I know I'm like sitting in here in a gym like an idiot, right? But like, I'm not. I understood what you put in front of me. It's like, wow, like, and I tried that gym because I hadn't committed to starting something for myself, right? I had a little bit of fear that you get excited and you're like, oh man, I'm going to do it. Tomorrow I'm going to start working out. But then, like, at some point, tomorrow morning comes and it's cold and you start running for like 2 steps and you're out of breath because you're fucking fat. And it's like, oh, this is not as motivating as it was talking about it over Cheetos last night, right? No, it's real. And I felt some of that, and I got a little insecure, a little fearful, and I went right back into someone else's model. And I got my pee-pee smacked, and I needed that because it was like, cool, hey, that's not for me, right? So I got to face the fear. I got to put myself back under some fire. So it's around the holidays, and I move into my buddy's mom's old Y2K pantry. I told you that. And, hey, Kate's living with her parents, so is our daughter. Cool. You know, and like I knew like I needed no distractions. I can't be hanging out with my daughter on the holidays, eating cake or pie, watching holiday movies. I'm not going to study. So I needed to just isolate myself and leave no room for distraction. I had to face it. Sleeping in a pantry, like you don't forget that. And if you're a stress eater, don't sleep in a pantry, bro. Fig Newtons, dude. I was eating, dude. It was bad, but I needed to be reminded of my situation every single day, every single night when I go to sleep. I could not have any distraction from that. I needed that pressure because I've had pressure in the Marine Corps where certain courses and some things we did there, pressure was great. And it was dialed and you were strategic, but yeah, that pressure was needed. So I did that to put myself back under it, right? And I'm feeling it. I'm a little stressed. I had a couple arguments with the old lady, and she was probably right. Let's not even go there, but back then I think I've got something to say. And I almost felt bad for myself, and we had kind of rekindled a relationship a little bit. We had, text back and forth a little bit, and I'd ask you for some lunch and, hey, let's just grab some lunch. And right before I left Fit Republic, but then hadn't heard from you in a little while. You're busy, I'm busy, but then I leave, I'm doing all this stuff, and then it pops back up. And we go to lunch, and I was going to complain to you. I was going to I had some things I wanted to say, and I needed a Band-Aid. At least I thought I did. So I'm talking with you, and you remember the success I had from Fit Republic and some stuff. And so you were mentioning some of those, and you're like, hey man, you're such a breath of fresh air. Like, no disrespect to veterans and the veteran community, you guys understand this, and this isn't any disrespect. This is just calling it like we see it. A lot of guys complain a lot when they get out, and they're not helping themselves out, right? And you are super respected in that world, and you've also got an extraordinary big heart for that world, and you want to help. But you said to me, man, a lot of the reach outs that I get, they're hard because guys want something or need something or their situations aren't good. And man, they were such good dudes in the Marine Corps, and they're hurting right now, and I want to help, but you got to help yourself. I'm like, Will, like you're doing some stuff. You're doing some stuff, and I'm proud of you. Like, man, it hit me so hard because it was like, hey, man, I'm a good interaction for like this guy that I respect. I'm a good interaction for him today. I might be the best interaction he has today. Cool. So like in the midst of me trying to figure myself out, it was like, hey man, just that guy's proud of you. That guy believes in you. Like, go out and do whatever you feel you need to do to where you don't make that dude a liar. His whatever perception he has of you, I would hate to ever let you down and think that like, man, I'm not what you thought. And then it was like, you know what? No, but I am those things. We did succeed with that fitness company. Man, I did do this. I did do like, okay, hey man, like I've got to instill that. And we've talked about, you know, when we found out we were pregnant with my son and some changes there. But man, since then, speaking of relationships, right, getting back to the topic pieces, I feel an extraordinary obligation to people that I look up to people that I call friends of like, what am I pouring into that relationship to where they feel valued from me? And that's helped me keep my circle super small because you can only give so many people that type of effort to dive in. And I needed that because through and Eli, you can speak to this too, man. When it's your turn, I don't usually give you a turn, but if you get a turn today, pull a fucking number. The fitness world is also just like real estate can be a lot of smoke and mirrors. Yeah. So is the fitness world, and your circle can get a lot bigger than you realize. And if you have a big heart, like your obligations to others can start getting real big, real quick if you're not on top of it. I mean, I just needed that, but it was actually a breath of fresh air to me when somebody just said they were proud of me. And it was like, man, like when's the last time you heard that? Like, I don't need a pat on the back all the time, but it was nice to have somebody I respect. Just like, hey man, hey, you can do it. You're doing it. And it's like,
no,
hey,
I remember that. You know? I remember that lunch. I remember, you know, I'm going to say it like you know it is. I'm just going to say it. Like
he had Crocs on.
Take offense to it or not. Like I remember it, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm going to go meet this guy Will. Like fuck, he's from division schools. Okay, I remember him. I remember the Fit Republic because we were talking about doing some video stuff with each other maybe a year before that or so. And I remember the feeling like before I have to drive down the hill, you know, 20, 30 minutes to go to some place to meet a vet. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just trying to be honest. And it's like, fuck, man. Okay. I really don't want to do this, but I said I was going to do it, and I want to be there for people that need me. It's like, okay, here we go. And, you know, you go into that expecting like you're saying, the complaining, the woe is me, I need some help. Why doesn't the world understand me? The typical is it the typical stereotypical?
Yep.
You're the judge on whether that
it is.
Is it typical stereotypical?
On this podcast, it goes. Yeah. It goes.
But like the needy, the broken vet story, you know? And that stereotype is what kept me from even wanting to get help or talking to people to go through my own problems, because I didn't want to feed into that, and so it's just this vicious little thing. And I remember feeling that before we went down, and then when we walked in, saw each other, sat down, and just kind of connected and trying to feel it out. And then immediately it was, you're just telling me all this good stuff that you're doing. And I was like, man, like, number one, I'm kind of embarrassed that I was having those thoughts beforehand about even coming down here to do this. I felt bad inside. And then number two, I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is amazing. Like, this is the best thing that's happened to me today. This is actually the best thing that's happened to me in the last couple weeks. You know, story of so-and-so suck starting a pistol. So-and-so, his kids find him hanging from a rope in his garage. So-and-so just beat his wife and now he's in jail. So-and-so got his third DUI and now he doesn't have like dealing with, I mean, and that those are specific. I can remember going through that for like 2 weeks, just after incident after incident after incident. And it's just like, man, you want to help these guys. Why are they fucking their life up? Like, wasn't I a good enough commander that they should be better today for having served with me, or did I break these guys? And, you know, the mind goes in all these weird directions. And you were just a huge wind in my sails, man. And it was so powerful for me to have an experience with a vet that I'd served with, a Marine that I'd served with, that's doing well. And it's like, yeah, this is great. You actually, whether you came there for you or what, or I came there for you, I left feeling like I was given a tremendous gift. And you're always doing that for me. I don't know what the deal is. You're always giving me gifts. Every time I hang out with you, I'm always giving gifts.
We're gonna rob a bank one day, and I'm building my team, so I'm super nice. There's a couple guys I'm super nice to.
I know we're playing the long game, bro. That's why we're in the basement right now.
No, we're just
gonna be hacking in upstairs one day.
Well, and here's the deal, man. Like when I was in that in that pantry, there's a couple people that were in my corner when you start over, and it's not so much about like the money at that point or like. Just support and belief, man, stuff matters, you know, and it also like just from being around another Marine and a guy I respected kind of like allowed me to remember my roots. And I'm super big on skill sets from your past and how they apply to your future. How do they apply to your now? You know, and like with our real estate, the way we train people, the way we manage people's emotions and certain things, there's a skill set on how we serve clients that has got all sorts of Marine Corps leadership to it, all sorts of police work inside of it, and like I kind of just had to remember where I came from, but that has now bloomed into a lot of different relationships, you know, for us. And you know, like, and I'm always doing stuff for you. I fucking did Diesel Day for this guy.
Oh yeah, it was for me,
man. Like,
it was for me. Thank you.
But here's what's cool. Here's what's
Appreciate
really
that.
cool, right? Here's where we start getting.
He crushed you too, by the way.
He didn't fucking crush me. He's got this big onion booty. He's like a fucking
Just
mule.
saying. I'm just calling it.
He's 5'5".
Totally objective,
Yeah, I
outside,
know.
just looking at.
Hey,
Looking
for
at
our
it.
listeners,
Wow.
Well,
I'm
and
like
that's the deal.
5'9".
You were just looking, so you didn't even do it.
Yeah.
I was
So-
analyzing.
We can't take your past. We can't take your past scores. But what really is cool is like you and I still had some time of like reestablishing that friendship, right? So you trusted me right out of the gate, and like I had a lot of like I got to go out and just get after it. And if I say someone matters to me or their leadership matters, like I've got to go apply that. And then every time I call this guy or reach out to this guy to say hello, I just want to throw some seeds out there of like, hey, what you do and how that's benefiting me, and just collaborating over text messages and phone calls. But then it slowly over time grew into a little bit more of a relationship. And obviously you had to make time for that relationship, man. Like I know you keep your circle pretty tight, and I had to make time for it. But what's really cool is, you know, so Diesel Day, if you guys don't know, and I'm not going to get too into it because you got to go experience it, but it's up in Boulder. It's on Tosh's land, and it's a 24-hour physical endurance. It's nonstop for 24 hours. You're going to meet different challenges physically and also mentally. And you're going to learn how to just combat that. And Tosh walks you through it, and it's incredible. But what was even more incredible was I was able to share that with my business partner, who's my brother, man. Like this guy's close to me like a Marine or even closer, you know. And that camaraderie was needed because him and I were starting to reach this next level of business. And what better gift can I give him than a fucking Diesel Day, right?
down.
Like, well, yeah. And it was like at first he was going to do it, and I was just going to volunteer. We were talking.
Well, first I was not going to do it.
Oh, that's right. He said
that
that's
was
right.
like
So
Will.
true friends.
Will called me and told me I just got done doing something, and Will had hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, so there's this thing going on," and I think before you finish the sentence, I was like, "No way, bro! Like, nope, thank you." And he was like, "No, bro." He's like, "Hey, I think it'd be really good for you," and he's talking about going and fucking volunteering.
Yeah.
And then, well, I'm trying to remember. Did you talk about volunteering first, and then you roped me into it?
Oh no, he wanted
or me doing
he
it.
contacted me, said I want to do this for
No, you
Eli.
called me. You
I
called
want to
me.
do this for Eli. But I'll come up there and help you out, but I need to give Eli
Yeah.
needs to go through this.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
just gonna watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little did you guys know I was also talking myself into it.
Oh, that was 100% it.
But
yeah.
Eli texted me, "Fuck no." Like a good friend, I share that with Tosh.
Oh, yeah.
Tosh gives me his very condescending opinion of Eli's limited ability to
Self-limiting beliefs, something or
self-limiting
other.
beliefs.
Yeah.
So I send that screenshot to Eli.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck. And so we talked about it for a couple more days, and it was like, nah, man, I'm doing it with you. Don't stress. And he you know, we did it, but I understood, you know, like camaraderie is forged in adversity, and there's just no absence for that, right? And I knew like, hey, we've got to go through this together and sweat. And now, since we're talking about it, since we talked about it a little bit, I cannot beat the shit out of you at Diesel Day. I had to let you win. I have to, because you got to come out on top. I've got enough wins, right? Like I feel good there.
It's only fair.
I had to let you know what I mean? Like I just had to let that happen.
Look in
That's
front
actually
of Tosh.
that's actually a win for me to allow you to have
You
one,
gonna
right?
take that? You gonna take that?
Yeah, he is.
Hey, I'll take whatever I can. Yeah, I'll take
You should
that,
be like,
dude.
no, you didn't give me
I'll
anything.
take
I
that.
took that from you.
We had a great time up there. We met new folks, but this is we talk about it in business on our other podcast about just the depth of relationships and how many referrals we get from just, hey, we don't try to buy clients on Zillow and Realtor.com. Like, no, just do a great fucking job. People refer people to you. So same thing with like friendships. You and I had a great friendship at that point and really starting to get in a good place two motivators for me. One, I knew I needed Diesel Day, and I felt Eli could really use that. The second point was, I guess there's 3 points. The second point was going through that with him is going to create that closer bond that him and I need, because we need more trust and more bond. Even though we're great, we were hitting another chapter, the next level of business. And I'm like, man, it's needed. We need to go. He needs to know I'm going to sweat for him, and that he can trust me, and vice versa. The third point was, I hadn't dove into your endurance world yet. You know, like I was always telling you about my world, and you were always so happy to help. But then it was like, hey, here's an opportunity, and you're big on people's effort. And I know that. You don't have to say it to me. I know that. And it was like, hey, it was a Sunday night. We were talking about Diesel Day on the phone. And I was talking about volunteering at first, you know, just putting my feelers out, see what you clowns would think. I was in. But it was cool because it was like, hey, here's an opportunity to go dive into your buddy's world, man. Like, yeah, you know, Tosh, you guys are Marines, but hey, man, he's really big in the endurance world, and he's created a model that lets anybody at any fitness level to any capacity come do this. How often could you ever experience that with someone like you? And it was like, here's an opportunity to not only indulge in that, but go dive into your buddy's passion. Go support your buddy, not by sitting in the stands and buying a ticket. No, I'm going to support you by letting you wear my ass out on this mountain. And how cool was that? But the layers that have come from you being able to meet Eli and watch him push, and now the relationship you guys have, and super cool. And it reminds me, very reminiscent of like the James Hobarts and the Mike Longs and how we all kind of talk now. It's super cool, and everybody has this mutual respect because they all want to have a good image for themselves, and they want to make sure that they represent themselves well for the person that introduced them to that person in the first place. And I think that's powerful, man.
What I like, man, is no one's trying to be each other. It's like all you guys are so good at what you do in your individual lanes, and it's like no one's trying to be each other. No one's stepping on each other's toes. No one's trying to change the way anyone else is doing things, and you see that in a lot of groups of friends or colleagues or, just people that work together. It's like people just either ripping each other off or stepping on each other's toes or just like the shit talking behind their back. But all you guys are so good at your lane and you stay in your lane. But then what's cool is that your lane really benefits us. It's cool shit. It's being around cool people. It's cool getting to see you do your thing. So it's nice seeing just value, from everybody just doing what they want to do,
Yeah, no agenda, no anything. We've actually invited a couple of other people to Diesel Days, and they've done it in. It's not just a take. It's like, man, like we can expose people to what Tosh is doing, and allow them to go have at it and go enjoy that. And super cool. I think, just to be clear, I think my lane was cornhole. Just so if we're getting super specific, it was
pretty fucking good at cornhole.
It was lights out.
Awesome.
Hey, James, best calves, probably legs. Tosh, just the coolest cat in the world. Will, cornhole. It's lights out. Don't fuck with me.
You dominated. I like. Let me drive the conversation for a second into something that is interesting for me. Whether it's interesting for you guys or not, I don't know. But when you spend time being a good fucking person, people want to be around you. And if everybody that wants to be around you are also concentrating on being a good fucking person, everybody wants to be around each other. And it's like the herd or the group or the tribe or whatever it is benefits. And it sort of eliminates a lot of that negative, like that resource draw, that drain. It's like
that leech.
There's a leech in the system, right? Like you got, if you own a boat, anybody that's owned a boat knows that something's always drawing power off your battery, and you're not even aware of it. Something's always drawing power. You do everything you possibly can. You shut the switches and this and that and the battery connector and everything, but you leave the boat for 2-3 months and you go to try to start it up and it doesn't start. And it's like, well, something had to be draining the battery, and it was so insidious. It was so like behind the scenes. You'd never even figure it out. And I've learned to recognize that and have gained some maturity in my life, right? Like, so put pause on that thought. Everybody else thinks me anyways, I'm slow. But, Paul Gomez, he was part of Progenics, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. And he had this saying, tighten the inner circle. And he was always posting on his Instagram, time to tighten the inner circle, tighten the inner circle. And he was paying for his friends to come out and hang, his closest friends, and they would do all whatever. And on the surface, it was like, oh, that's really, really cool. And I thought, and I still do think, hey, that's cool, that concept. Hey, I want to tighten the inner circle. bring those that you love in closer, shower them with, I don't want to say gifts, but shower them with love and resources, whatever that resources that you have to give in spades, right? And I started thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, hey, I want to tighten my inner circle. I want to tighten my inner circle. And I'm like, I'm thinking about this all wrong. I don't, it's a cool concept and I agree with it to a degree, but I just started to evolve from that. And I started thinking about my relationships like I do my investment portfolio. It's like, hey, you look at your portfolio, right? And you got some securities and you got some bonds and you got some funds or whatever. And what do you do with the ones that are underperforming? You get rid of them, cash them out. You know, you cut your losses and then you reinvest
back in what is
back into something else that's doing well.
Right.
And I just started thinking about my relationships that way because, like, right, the bigger you get, the more people you meet, the older you get, the world gets smaller. You got more and more friends. And you have a big heart. You want to give to everybody. And it's draining. And then inevitably, you know, the more your circle grows, the more people that are contacting you all the time. And like, I try to respond to every text message, every email, every DM, every Facebook message. And you're on all these platforms. Technology makes it really, really hard. And it's like, hey, this is demanding. And so like, there's a thing of courtesy, right? And professionalism. But then, and this is where it gets interesting, right? Like tighten the inner circle. Like am I tightening the inner circle? Or am I just like cutting some chafe? And I started doing that recently in my life in the last probably year and a half, 2 years.
So we made the cut.
Yeah, you made the cut, man.
Barely.
But it's not about you. It's not about anybody making the cut. It's more about me and how I can affect you guys. And it's like, I mean, so this is where I started. Yeah, I find somebody talking shit, right? Somebody's gossiping about my wife. Like, okay, hey, fuck you. You're out.
Mm-hmm.
Done. It's easy. You can talk shit about me and I'm not going to get hurt, right? Like 4 agreements, don't take things personally. Okay, talk shit about me behind my back, whatever. I'm big, but talk shit about my wife, you're out. Mm-hmm. And so that's easy, right? And then like, okay, hey, well, who told me that so-and-so was talking shit about my wife? You know what? You're out too.
Yeah, what'd you say to them?
You know what I mean? Like,
did you politely check them or did you let them talk shit about my wife to you?
Yeah, right? Like, who are you that person that's talking shit about me or my wife feels so comfortable telling you?
Right.
Because if they had the inclination that we were tight, they wouldn't be wanting to say anything to you. And so it's just like, okay, you're out. And now I'm not saying first offenses, right? And I get it. Like the world is all about communicating. Depending
escalation
on severity.
Of force, right? Sometimes you can escalate it. Sometimes it's 0 to 100. Man. Like in police world, right? Like, yeah, sometimes it's verbal commands into orders, into hands-on.
Proportionality, right?
But sometimes you have to skip all of those and it goes straight to like nothing to gunpoint to pulling a trigger. Depending on the situation, what they do, you might have to just politely leave that.
Yeah. But generally speaking, it's like, hey, so-and-so person A is talking shit about me, the person B. Okay, cool. Like flag. Hey, doing it again. But then I constantly hear that person A is talking shit about so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and they're just a fucking gossip.
Yeah.
And I get it. In the world is all about sharing information and perception management and all this and all that and social media. And I give allowance for that. But at what point has it become that drain on my battery?
Pretty fast.
Right?
Pretty fucking fast, yeah.
And if it goes unchecked, I constantly getting drained. And if you have that times 1,000, it drains even quicker. And so I just was like, yeah, hey, you know what? If you don't hear back from me, if you call me on the phone and leave a voicemail, you probably don't know me well enough anyways to know that I don't do phone, right? If you text and you don't get a response, and you text again and you don't get a response, and you text again and you don't get a response, you probably been just fucking cut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going around in circles here for a minute, but I just been feeling better. And it's like, okay, hey, cool. Like, why spend time? Why spend my energy giving to this person?
When it changes your lens too. Like when you have a lot, like if your circle is big, or if your circle is filled with like some negativity, where you do have a couple of these folks that are not necessarily talking trash about you all the time, but just talking trash, or they're the reporter of everyone else who's talking trash. It starts to change your lens on how you just see people and society and what's going on. And like, before you know it, like you catch yourself being a toxic dude. You know, like I've done some clean house before as well. And like, I think a lot in the shower, take that how you may. That's just a creative spot for me. Super creative. But sometimes I'll be in there and it's like, fuck, like I'm a negative dude right now. Like, what am I?
Mhm.
Where's my day gone? And a lot of it is just like your brain, man, being like a sponge of like soaking up your interactions with everyone. And so and then you get busy with work and you're doing your thing. Like before you know it, you don't even want to be around people. And you're like, hey, why is that though? Because people suck, or like, is my selection, like, am I a victim of the decisions I'm making and the environments I'm choosing to put myself in versus like, as you clean house, you're like, no, man, like, man, I feel a little bit more re-energized. I've recommitted time and reallocated time where it's more positive, you know, and hopefully this is ringing solid for folks, because what you just talked about, hey, that person that just told me someone was talking trash about me. Hey, what does that person say back to that person? Like, did they let that? That was on one of your podcasts. We had a situation not too long ago, no names, that was a little frustrated at some things, and it was their fault. But they used the word cunt towards some of the folks that we work with, and I remembered that. And I politely told that person, hey, man, I appreciate your frustration, and, you know, and hey, they're a separate business. We've introduced you and build that relationship, you know, as you may, but hey, they do a great job for us. She's not a cunt, you know, and like, man, you know, and then the excuse I got was, man, you know us military talk, man. It's like, no, you know what, I do. But that's also why, like, I want to check that, because I think your behavior and your conduct toward others is very loose, and you don't realize that your military talk and candor bleeds out and it rubs people the wrong way, and they don't want to work with you. And I think there's, hey, man, like, I feel like I'm actually, I don't like being the bad guy, but I think that, hey, I've had to be told that before. I've had to kind of like readjust myself. Hey, I think this is a moment where you've got to readjust. Like, it's okay to be frustrated, but like the actions and the behavior outward and addressing it is inappropriate, man. And if you change that, I think a lot more people, you know, would be more pleased to be around you, and it's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's so many things going on here in a lot of different directions, which is really cool. Let me just pick on that for a second, because that speaks volumes to you by correcting it. Like, you just invested in your personal reputation, and like, that's who I want to be. If we're in a group of 8 people and one person's talking shit, and then I'm like, hey, look, like, that's not for me. Like, that's my friend. I care about that person. You can think what you want, and I respect that. But just so you know where I stand, and if you want to talk shit about that person, don't do it in front of me.
Yeah, I'm not a conductor. Yep.
And I'll get up and I'll leave. But what did I invest in, though? I invested in the 7 other people at the table that are watching that interaction thinking, wow, fuck, Tosh is a dude, man. Like, look how he handled that. Look how he sticks up for his friends. Like, there's something to be respected. There's something honorable about that. I've just invested in those 7 other people, you know,
100%.
And I think that's important too to look at. But, you know, and by no means am I saying, hey, you know, so-and-so's talking, they're gossiping, talking shit. Like, I'm not petty. I'm not a teenager. Right. And so I understand it's not the whole playground talk. Like, he said, she said, so-and-so's talking shit. Now Tosh is insulted, and like, that's not it. It comes down to, back to the analogy of my finances. All of our finances should be important to us, whether you're poor or you're rich or wherever you're at in between, right? So whatever your portfolio looks like. But if you have a relationship that's not performing, if you have an investment that's not performing, do you just sit there and let it lose money? No, you cut it. Hey, I want to trade those in. I want to coop my losses. I want to take that, and I want to re-energize the other funds that are doing well. That's how I'm looking at my relationships now. There's people in my life that are toxic. There are people that are benign. There are people that are adding value, and there are people that I think are adding a tremendous amount of value.
Assets and liabilities.
Yeah,
Yep.
at different degrees, right? And so I definitely want to get rid of the toxic people. And I want to take the energy that I save from having to deal with that, both personally and my own internal energy, but then the resources that I invested in that person, and I want to reinvest and redistribute them to the rest of my group. Who benefits? The people that I actually fucking care about.
Yeah.
And I just keep working up the chain.
Using like the snowball method with your, like, Dave Ramsey, shout out to Dave Ramsey, the snowball method with your friends.
Yeah. And how do you combat, right? So me, contrary to what Eli might post on this channel or whatever, I'm a Care Bear. I'm a Care Bear.
You know, like
Purple
Care
one.
Bear.
He's the purple.
you know
one.
those bears that you can get, or like all sweet looking,
the gummy
and then you
bears?
squeeze them, and like the teeth come out, and they're like, "That's him." He's like, "Oh,
Hey,
nice."
be careful
until-
with Care Bears, because they just canceled Dr. Seuss. Care Bears might be
yeah,
next.
they might be.
Eli
be careful.
is
Except they're already all rainbows and shit. They're good, man. Care Bears are good to go.
Eli's not circumcised. Just
He keeps saying that. I don't know. And then I was like, dude, Jews literally like invented circumcision,
Yeah,
right?
which
Why
means
did
he's-
it go to circumcision?
I'm
after-
just-
we went
I'm
from
just-
Care
no
Bears
clue.
to
I'm
circumcision.
just
No
throwing him.
clue.
I'm just
what
throwing.
the hell is going on
Look,
here?
when you
This
start
cancel
throwing guys,
culture thing.
when you throw guys under buses, it doesn't matter what bus.
So far, I'm 5'6",
Yeah.
and I'm uncircumcised.
Okay. All right, you're circumcised, but you are 5'6".
I keep telling he's trying to get me to whip it out to prove him wrong. Like, no, bro, look, I promise. I know where he's
Kinda.
going. I know where he's going.
a little bit.
How did this,
A little bit,
How did
I'm
this
just curious.
digress that fast?
No clue.
It went down quick.
Well, here,
clue.
you know
Not
what?
even
I'm
drinking.
friends with him. I'm friends with him. He's my brother. But if I found out he's packing more than me, man, I kind of want to like distance
Oh,
myself.
shit.
You know, like it's just now I'm threatened. Now I'm threatened by that. All jokes aside.
People listen to this.
Oh
Yeah, you believe it?
Yeah.
Holy
it's a good
shit.
laugh on their way home. They can go, hey, at least my life's not as bad as these fucking jokers, right? Like,
funny.
we're a breath of fresh air for everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so beginning back to I'm a Care Bear. So I have felt guilty removing myself or parting ways with people. And we were out with Sal Frisella and Andy Frisella in First Form. And Sal said something really that struck me. It might be pedestrian to some folks, but for whatever reason, it struck me. And we were sitting in his office having a conversation. And he was like, hey, man, I'm getting to a place, not only in business, but with myself, where I know who I am. And I was like, man, do I know who I am? Like, I think I do, but do I focus on that at all? And he's like, we started talking about relationships a little bit. And he's like, hey, I know me and I know my intentions and I know my expectations of where I can deliver and where I can't. And when I can't, I'm okay to say I can't. And if somebody else is putting an obligation or an expectation on me that's just that I can't adhere to, I'm okay saying that I can't adhere to it. And hey, that's on them if they're going to continue to put something on me. And I took that when I started looking at some of my relationships. Like, hey, I'm not here to change you. If I can throw some solicited advice at you, if we can have a conversation, or if I have to say something for the betterment of our situation, cool. Or if you're just in a certain place in life and it's a stock that's not doing very well, hey, I'm not here to change you or make you hear anything that I got to say, but I'm also not obligated to stay. And we talk a lot about extreme ownership, and I know that's popular nowadays. Extreme ownership, and okay, because I can already hear some of the questions from this podcast, and I can already hear it myself of like, when you say like, oh, hey, a stock's performing, do you just let it sit there? Or do you move on? Some people that have heard us talk about extreme ownership and leadership and accountability are going to say, well, what have you done to enhance or change that relationship to make it perform? What have you done to enhance that stock and educate yourself on that stock to make sure it performs? And it's like, well, you're right. Have you done anything to enhance that relationship? But you also have to understand, hey, some people are who they are. And no, there's no obligation to change anyone. And there's no obligation for you to surround yourself around someone just because they make you feel guilty that you're removing yourself. Mm-hmm. And that was something that was huge for me when we were talking to Sal. And he goes, Will, I know who I am. I know I give my best. I know I'm doing everything I can. And if I'm not, I'm going to say it. But hey, if I can't pour into something, I'm okay to walk away from that. And if somebody else has something to say, instead of supporting me, I already know where you stand right there. You know, and like that just rang at me because I have like felt bad sometimes as far as like where I just can't put time into or where someone's just in a certain place or a certain level of business. But, and this was my fault because I was so accessible. Like if you look at it from the business standpoint, there were folks that were halfway in, halfway out in real estate and just very transactional. And we were growing and having these meetings, but because I was so accessible, they wouldn't even resource the education we gave them. They would just call because they knew how to answer the question. And at some point you go, hey, hold on a minute. Who's abusing who right now? Because I've given classes and you should be taking notes and I've poured in, you know, it's like, but you still, but I answer my phone.
Yep.
And then I'll bitch you out about it. But I answered my phone and you got your question answered. Yeah. So for me, you know, all jokes aside, like with the Care Bear thing, like I did have to kind of overcome and just
enabler.
Yeah. Like if Tosh were to say, if you were to be too busy for us, right? And you've got some things going on where you can't come to the podcast or, hey guys, some things came up and hey, I've committed to some stuff. If we are anything but supportive, I guess is what I'm kind of getting at. Yeah. So when you're talking about having at least some of these relationships for our listeners out there, you really have to be in tune with your own self-awareness and with the integrity of who you are and being okay to walk away knowing that, hey, if some people are going to throw some backlash toward you, that might reinforce what you think about them in the first place, but you can't go diving back in to explain yourself. Like you've got to stand true to what you believe and you've got to go execute in a different direction.
Yeah. Well, let me phrase it a little different too, because I like the financial reference because it's easy, but it's not as clean, right? really it's not. It is more complicated, and relationships are complicated, and they're different for everybody and different dynamics. And just because I'm saying these things doesn't mean I don't believe in second, or if I cut you out, doesn't mean that I'm not nice and social, or that I'm going to start motherfucking you behind your back. Like that's not it either. Like we could have dinner together and be fine, but it's going to be cordial. It's not going to be intimate. Right. And so as we start looking at our relationship, but let me phrase it this way instead of like, hey, just sell the stocks that aren't performing. Right. Ask yourself when you find yourself in a relationship with somebody, hey, is this serving me well? Right.
So
to use Richard Gerling from Mindful Badge, I use him right now with our nonprofit. Shameless plug for the Big Fish Foundation.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're gonna have all your stuff
Shameless
all over
plug.
this.
He does some mindfulness training and just awesome stuff. And he says, I like the phrase that he uses, hey, is what am I doing right now serving me well? Well, and I started applying that to a lot of things in my relationship or my life, relationships being one. Is my relationship with you serving me well? Like, well, what does that mean? Am I getting anything from it? Is there any benefit to me? And I look at that too, like it's easy to look at other people's relationships and say, hey, that relationship's not serving you well. Right. I've told this to Nicole, like, hey, well, why are you even friends with her? Like all she does is this, and this. And she's like, I know, but I like her and she does this for me. And I'm like, cool. You understand the nature of that relationship. Right.
Interesting.
And it's powerful. And I enjoy that relationship that they have together and she enjoys it, even though it's frustrating on these facets. For these things, it's filling her up. And that's what relationships are, right? Like you take what you need. I take what I need. I can ask for you to give things that I want. You can ask me to give you things that you want, but we have this sort of agreement and exchange. It's beneficial for both of us.
It's not always just like dollar for dollar. Sometimes it's you give me some leather, I give you some fur. You know, like it's just these different things that you get from different people.
Yeah. And nobody else can put a dollar value to it to say that that's a fair exchange.
Right.
It's the perception of equity. Right?
It's between you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where we fall into the trap is when things are toxic or things are not healthy, when things are drawing undue resources from you for very little benefit, the proportionality is way off. You know,
Question on
those
that.
things that I've been cutting, like viciously cutting like a cancer out of my life.
Do you think some people draw resources, or is it easy to slip into that trap of giving resources more than you should?
I think both, and I think one can feed the other. Doesn't mean it's not a chicken or the egg type. It is a chicken or the egg conversation. Maybe,
one person's drawing it, the other
feeding.
person's allowing it and feeding it.
Care Bear enabler.
Right there, huh?
Yeah, I really, man, and again, it might be pedestrian. And I'm only saying the word pedestrian because I heard you say pedestrian, so I copied it.
I don't know what that means.
It's a good word when you use it.
Explain it to me. Explain it to me.
Correctly.
For my own knowledge, real quick. Sidetrack.
So a pedestrian is somebody that's walking, sometimes riding a bicycle, not in a motor vehicle. That's what a pedestrian is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So used in context of used
Tosh's team will today.
used in this context.
Limited. It's very surface level, limited.
Pedestrians, like we can get a little deeper. We can get a little
Like,
more
hey, it's not like what you just said was not as clever as you might think. So what I'm saying is I know I'm not being clever.
No, I think you're being really insightful. I think Sal or Andy, when they were saying that to you, then you picked up on it. I think it's really significant.
It is.
It might sound like
Yeah.
but when you really sit and think about it, it's pretty powerful.
Because you think you know who you are. Like, I think I know. Who are you? Like, oh,
You think you know.
Yeah, your mind's mind.
Yeah.
But then you really have to like dive into that and just, and it was, man, I'm an enabler as much as like, hey, create distance and, and like, hey, you want people to resource the training you've given them and certain things. But then, but all they do is call me. Yeah, you answer your phone. I'd fucking call you too, bro. If you got the answer, I'll take my licking. I'll take my spanking. But I got what I want. And like I had to have a conversation. So for example, I had a conversation with an individual about that, and it was very productive. And this was a relationship I did not have to cut off. But your knee-jerk reaction, if you don't have your own accountability, might be to cut it off. But for me, it was like, well, I am kind of enabling that. Let me have a conversation. So I had a conversation with this person. It was like, hey, see this from my side. I'm going to answer because I care. And I want to answer if you call because, hey, if it's important and you really do need me, I want to be there. So every time you call, I don't know if it is. So I want to be able to answer that. But if I have to second guess why you're calling, I'm going to stop answering. And then when you really do need me, problem. But hey, respecting the relationship you and I have, especially because it was a business relationship, right? But we're friends as well. It was, hey, if you see it from my lens, I'm really busy as well. And when you call me for things and you haven't even concocted what you think the answer is, to at least have that conversation so I can see how your brain's working, or you haven't resourced the material we've given all of you in the past 3 years, you're actually being very disrespectful, because you're okay to take my time to give an answer, but you're not okay to take your own time to resource. And it shed light for that person, because obviously they did not have the intention of that. It was just so second nature, and I'm so answer my phony problem. So that was one where I was able to be mended, and like now then we've created some boundaries. But
yeah,
I really
that's what good friends. That's what good friends do for each other. I mean, that's called providing value. Right. You provided that person value. You know, like we're not saying abandon friendships that have value because somebody would, because we're taking things personally or we're being insulted. Right. It's, and like you were saying too, like what have I done to influence that investment or to influence this relationship to make it better? You know what I mean? And I think that's important because that's adding value. I want to add value to you. If I ever am being a douchebag, I would hope that I'm around people that are going to be like, hey, Tosh, you're being a douchebag. And here's why. It's like, oh, cool. Like, thank you.
I will not tell you you're being a douchebag.
I will. I will. Since you asked. The first time you were on the podcast.
When have I ever been a douchebag?
Okay, can I just say it? Because I know why you were doing it.
Okay, go ahead.
First time you're on the podcast.
He's so curious right now.
Every time.
Like, go ahead, please.
Oh, I've told you. Every time. So when the first time you're on the podcast, every time Eli opened his mouth with a question. Oh, great question, Eli. Oh, very insightful, Eli. Just making Eli you're just throwing so much love at his way because I was just itching for a compliment.
Or Eli had good questions.
He's really talented.
Or did you think about if Eli had good questions or not?
If you cared about Eli as much as you said you do, you'd give him more voice.
I do, which is why I was insecure because I'm like, I introduced Tosh to my boy, and now my boy is like hitting on this dude low key on the podcast right in front of my face. But you know what? Before you know, you guys are having dinner together and like all sorts of weird.
We have not done that yet.
I'm gonna take you out to that steakhouse.
Okay, neither one of you have asked me.
But that's a great lead into what we were talking about earlier about our network.
Yeah.
When we start being this person that we're talking about, and you start shedding some of that loose weight around, we can spend more time giving to the people that we really, really care about. Right? Like who benefits from you? Who benefits from you cutting and severing a toxic relationship? I do. I'm your friend. I'm in your network, right? Like everybody does. And the more people you can do, and then when you start finding yourself around all these people that are doing that and they're providing all this value to each other, it's enjoyable. And it's like, hey, I'm not stealing your boyfriend, Eli, right? Like he's not my side piece now or anything like that. But like you found him super valuable that you have a friendship, and I respect and I value you. Wow, man, there must be something special about this guy. Yep. And like when you come to the Diesel Day and you met Mike Long, it's like, hey, this is a guy that I really have grown to respect and like. And it's like, and you guys are there, and it's like, hey, we're collecting these people that we all recognize as really good, and Carolyn and everybody else, right? And then when I hear that, oh, I'm on the phone with Hobart, or I just talked to Mike yesterday, or Carolyn and I were just emailing, and we're doing these things, it's like that makes me so happy. Yeah, because I want to share the people that I love the most with the people that I love the most.
Yeah. And then there's no agenda. Now, question for you.
Agenda.
Question for you, because is it safe to call you an entrepreneur?
No, I'm not an entrepreneur.
No?
No.
What are you?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you work for somebody?
The transcendent human.
Yeah.
We already talked about that.
That was pretty generous, actually. That was pretty generous. I like that.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you like it, because don't look at him and say you like it. I fucking wrote it.
I know, man. That was a cool post that you did yesterday.
I call you an entrepreneur because, you're a public figure. You go out, like, how do you create income? You throw your own events, right? And you provide value. Self-sufficient value out. You're outside of the box. You go public speak. You do different things. I think it's safe to say for our listeners, you're not a 9-to-5 or where you work for somebody. Right.
I don't know if it's an entrepreneur, but we can go with it for now.
For the sake.
I also don't make money on my events.
So you're a struggling entrepreneur.
Yeah, philanthropist. Yeah.
I use Mama's Amex. That's where I get my money.
He's experimenting.
Mama's Amex.
Very entrepreneurial of you, actually.
Well, but here's why I'm saying that, because in our network, and this is a question I have for you. I think it's a little bit easier and it's a little bit more fluid, like if we're all friends, right? Like Eli's you drive a trash truck, 'cause that's what you'd be doing if you weren't here and blessed with me. You drive a trash truck.
I'd be a bank teller.
I'd be a substitute teacher. Tosh is probably like makes wood. Like he makes furniture out of wood or, you know, something like that, right? But like we all have our own 9-to-5s and we're all just friends and we hang out and you introduce us. We go shooting sometimes. Can be very fluid where like friendships just kind of like flow and it's cool, you know? Mm-hmm. We're all also in the business space. We're all also entrepreneurs. And a lot of our friends that we introduce people to kind of have their own thing, their own business, their own gig, right? Successful or not, their own gig. And I feel like that's where I kind of toe the line a little bit, even like with some new relationships, because man, like I enjoy them or they're good people, but it's like, hey, is there something there? Like, are we trying to do business together or is there something, you know what I mean? Like there's some of that bleed over and is that a little bit harder to control because you're pretty well known and you know, especially through like the CrossFit community, through the military community, there's business opportunities around, right? But then you've also got some friends that are entrepreneurs and kind of own their own businesses. And I feel like that's where it almost gets a little sticky because it's like, hey, do they have the intention to poach my circle and to like grab, you know, or is it just their natural subconscious because they're so entrepreneurial that they can't stop land grabbing and they don't even realize that they're stepping on someone's toes. And I think with kind of the circle that we've started to build, it's like the awareness and the respect to a friend and being clear about things and intentions and the communication that has to happen in order for like a circle like that to flow. Yeah. There's almost like a little bit more of a heightened level of security there. Am I explaining that the right way?
Let me roll with this with you because it's conversations that you and I had at length about many things, and I'll be careful with it, but I think it's valuable to share. Let me lead in with, I think I spent a tremendous amount of time caring and cultivating my reputation. And it goes back to what you were talking about. Do I know myself? And, you know, I wasn't always good at it. And I wasn't the greatest when I was young and then I had some hard time, whatever. But anyways, in the last 10 years or so, I've really been focused on defining who I am, what I believe in, what do I stand for, who do I want to be, what's my value proposition to the world, right? And I'm pleased that I'm moving in a good direction. I'm still growing. I'm still learning, right? But I spent a lot of time developing a reputation so that, you know, I like being called a good motherfucker. And I know when other good motherfuckers give that denotion, what's the word I'm looking for, that gives that like title to somebody else as a good motherfucker, that holds a lot of value.
Like if Tosh tells me someone's a good dude, it's like, man,
it holds a lot of weight.
That means a lot.
Right?
And that's kind of really all we have, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we spend a lot of time building that, right? And this is above and beyond how many followers you have on Instagram or how flashy or how well you manage other people's perceptions of who you are or whatever it is, right? Or it doesn't matter. So anyways, I spend a lot of time and it's something that's very, very important to me because I know that it's important to my relationships and I know that through my reputation, I can help others when they need it because I can leverage that. Hey, dude, like, just send that person a bike or, hey, this guy needs a job or, hey, like this, just, can you talk to this person? Cause he's on the, like, well, Tosh is saying it. I'm going to help this fucking guy. Then good.
It's currency.
It is currency. It's timeless currency,
Yep.
You know? And, we can ruin it really, really quickly and others can try to take it away from us. And if you don't defend it, if you don't defend your reputation to the, whatever, I'm having a hard time with picking the right words today, but if you don't defend your reputation in earnest, right, it's going to get taken away.
100%.
So take the example of Shaw's shooting.
Okay.
Taco was like, hey, Tosh, you know, got this event. If you know anybody that wants to come to the event, blah, 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 blah. Hey, man, I love you, Diane. Like, cool. I want to send Nicole there because I think she would get a big value out of this thing. I'm going to send Nicole. How much does it cost? And, oh, well, no. Like, hey, we're good buddies. I still want to pay for Nicole to go. You know, wanted to go through it, even though we're friends. No, I want to give you a discount. No, it's important to me. You're running a business, fine. And I know it's valuable
expectations
to her.
To run the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know how hard it is, right? And so we pay for Nicole to go to Shaw's shooting, which, anyways, we don't even need to talk about what Shaw's shooting is, but it's a chance of a lifetime at that point. And she goes and she has such a great fucking time. And Dan is like, hey, man, I want to do another one. can you come and instruct at this next one? Because I need instructors or whatever. And it's like, yeah, hey, actually this one will fit in my calendar. Like, perfect. He's like, bring Nicole too. I'm like, okay, hey, got that. And then I was like, well, Dan gave to the Big Fish Foundation a scholarship to a donor, right? We picked a raffle of donors and whatever.
Right, you had a challenge. You had a challenge where people could donate to the challenge, and then for every person that donated, there was a raffle. One of the gifts from that raffle was an experience at Shaw's.
An experience at Shaw's, yeah. And it was super cool. That was a super, super generous thing to do for the Veteran Foundation. And then I'm like, okay, hey, Dan, like, got this guy. And then a friend of Chris's, Diesel Mike, said, hey, my buddy won that raffle. Like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Hey, do you think I could go? And I was like, man. And now Diesel Mike had been a client of mine for 4 or 5 years at that point, and grown into a friendship, and really, really good. Diesel Mike, right? And you guys all know Diesel Mike.
Super good dude.
And I was like, well, I don't know, man, but let me think about it, and let me give Dan a call. And was like, hey, this experience would be really, really valuable to Mike. I think he would enjoy this. This is something that's good for him to interact with and buddy, whatever. And Dan was like, yeah, man, got another one. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I told Mike he could go. He paid for it. And then I was having conversations with Taco and Dan, same person. I just exchange them back and forth. And I said, hey, man, I got other people that, I mean, I don't know how many slots you have, but I've got other people that I think it'd be really valuable for them to go to this, that they would enjoy. And he's like, okay, let me see if I got some space. He's like, yeah, Tosh, like, whoever you want to send, but just make sure that they're not douchebags. Right. And I'm like, Dan, I'm not fucking sending people. I'm not trying to get I'm not asking for a commission. I'm not asking for favors. I'm not asking for free slots. I'm not trying to sell for you. I don't want you to ask to sell for me. I just recognize that you're doing something right now that is really, really fucking cool. And I've got some people that I think could value from that. And I want to share you with those people. Yep. You guys were on that list.
Correct.
Nick, there was like 8 or 9, and you guys all came. And then from that, you guys started a relationship with Dan and with so-and-so and with so-and-so and other people that were at the event. But that's what that is. It's about creating a tribe of people who good motherfuckers put that vouch of, hey, this is another good motherfucker. And you all kind of share space together and you do something really, really cool. And there's like some trust and confidence that, oh, wow, like maybe I would like this guy.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel really good that when you can share that social capital with each other. And now that leads to the question of, like, doesn't it get weird? Because Dan's in this space and then I'm in this leadership space and Chris is in this leadership space and other people, and you worry about people poaching clients and it's like, hey, there's enough respect between good motherfuckers to know that you're not going to poach clients and you're not going to do that. Like there's this code, like, but I'm also, if you strike up a friendship with Chris and you and Chris start to do work together, I shouldn't take that as an insult, or I shouldn't take that as anything negative. I should be encouraged by that. Cool. That's validation that 2 people that I think are GMFs agree with me and they find value with each other. I'm looking at it from that lens. Like, I am excited that I introduced.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
For me, yes and no.
Well, and then that's where you and I had a lot of conversations because you were, well, go ahead. Yeah.
So I think the intent matters, right? So if I'm running a diesel day, or if I'm running a leadership program or whatever it may be, and I'm an instructor or I'm a volunteer up at one of your diesel days, and I meet some of your people from your pool or from your circle, and someone approaches me that would like to do something, right? And it was on them. They took it upon themselves to approach me during the event or after the event because, hey, something that I do or an opportunity that I have, they would like to dive in. I think it's important that me, as that person, already being in your circle, right? Like, I need to communicate that to you. Because what I should not be doing is going out of my way to advertise and market myself to your circle, encouraging them to come, right? Because people that care for you, that are committed to you, and they know you really enjoy me, and I initiate that with them, there's almost a slight obligation that they would want to do that because they think it's going to please you to support me. And I'm taking advantage of a vulnerability there because I'm initiating, right? And I don't care for that personally, right? Just my opinion. I don't care for that. And him and I are in sales, and we see it at the highest level. And like people that I really respect and I see highly, if that person who I respect super highly has a buddy and that buddy wants to invite me to something, I do think I'm doing you a solid by supporting someone that you see so highly. When in the reality is that person could just be poaching your network because they understand that vulnerability. Or maybe they don't realize that it's a vulnerability. They just see that they're getting conversion from it. And I don't care for that. But if someone from your circle approaches me and just, because we're just doing something and for whatever reason, the flavor of ice cream I have just rang to them or something like that, cool. And I'm going to ask if they spoke to you about it in a very neutral, kind way, but I'm also going to make sure that I communicate it to you, because the one thing I never want to happen is you think that my intention of being in your environment is to benefit from a sales transaction versus, hey, if I'm a part of an event that you have, if you say, we'll come volunteer for Diesel Day, I'm there to pour in to the event. I am not there to take anything out of it, right? Especially during an event, because they've obviously already paid for something and they're supposed to be present where their feet are, absorbing that experience, not hearing me talk about another experience that's coming up.
Unless we sort that out in the beginning, but
and
like
that's
what you're
just
talking about is just pure dudery, just pure respect. It's a function of respect, because you've come to me with things and said, Tosh, hey, I just wanted to get your permission to do that. I'm like, bro, you don't need my permission. Like, who am I to need your, you're a grown fucking man. Like, well, it's because I respect you. And I'm like, well, you're not obligated to, but I feel you're putting that obligation on yourself because you feel such a tremendous amount of respect.
The relationship matters more than the opportunities.
That is fucking cool. And that is a relationship that I want to continue to invest in, because I know that it's safe. I know that it's going to be there for me when I need it. I know that relationship is going to benefit other people that I care about. Just the way that you think that way. And, people that don't all have to think that way as a default. I think it's a learned.
I think it's learned.
It's learned.
Yeah.
We learned
because
it maybe
him and
in
I've
the
been around
military.
for a while. Well, we've been around a while in the entrepreneur space and been decently successful at it, to where we understand the value of relationships, and we've also been poached. Bottom line, we've just been poached before. We've had people steal our content before and try to duplicate what we're doing, and we've had people be around us and then try to go somewhere else. So we've felt that before. But the bottom line is, if people don't have a sustainable business or a sustainable model, they're always going to see whatever's right in front of their face, the next dollar, the next person that can buy a course, the next person that can come to an event, versus fundamentally building relationships, where you can scale and what really matters. And that's where I think Eli and I have a lot more poise, than that. But the bottom line is, if I'm asked to go somewhere to be something, I'm that while I'm there. I'm not Mile High Property Brothers. I'm not Day One $0. I'm not whatever. I am this person from this background with these skill sets to be here to provide and pour into you here. Right? I'm not there to pitch my shit, man. And you're right. I think some of that can be learned. Great, because I might be the guy that will teach you that. Because if you do it to my circle, I'm going to, and I respect you enough to say something, because I think, hey, this matters. And I think this person needs to know this. And I'm going to help them with this lesson. And I respect you enough as a friend to come tell you, because I also give you benefit of doubt that you're going to be very, very productively responsive to what I'm saying to you. And if it were to go negative, it would actually surprise me. But I also need you to know that, hey, here's why I have you around, but this is where this goes. And anytime friendships and business kind of overlap a little bit, and there's relationships,
It's hard.
But the heightened level of we could sit here and get super romantic and talk about a gunfight if you want, right? Can't correlate to anybody. The bottom line is, as things get heightened, communication and fundamentals and being on the same page, it just matters more. Let's just leave it at that, right? It matters more. So when we're all friends that also have independent and coincided business relationships, communication and intent
matters.
You just got to have a higher level.
You know what it kind of reminds me of is targeted advertising on Facebook. When your friends are all together, and especially when you're all entrepreneurial, whether you call yourself entrepreneurial or not, this circle, we're all entrepreneurial. I am triggered to look. I like opportunities. I like knowing someone that does something, and hey, maybe I love the collaboration. So I think it's that intent. But you said the heightened communication, I think, is really important. Yeah. For me, my brain doesn't even go where his brain goes as far as hey, why are you here? Are you drawing? Are you taking? What does that look like? For me, I'm just oh, what's up, bro? Oh, cool. You do that? Hey, there's something we can do together here. I like that aspect, but it's very important because there are people like what he mentioned, and that's where it's just being exposed to that. You got to be oh shit, hey, this is one of the motherfuckers, and that's not right. But from the targeted advertising perspective, it's if we are all friends and we all have shit going on and there is collaboration, like possibility, man, I'd rather do it with someone that knows Tosh. I'd rather do it with someone that's been to a diesel day before.
Well, and you got to know your trunks, right? Like for an analogy, like you got tree trunks, and you've got branches on those trees, and some of those branches are great opportunities, and some of them break over time. But you've got to really understand like the relationships that are your pillars, that are your tree trunks that are solidified,
I like that
right?
trunk,
You know, like I've always seen you like that. You know, not to blow you on camera, I guess, but you know, like I always, for those of you that aren't watching, you're on iTunes. I'm under the table right now talking to Tosh to his microphone. I've just always considered that relationship like that tree trunk, man. Like, hey, I just need that guy to know that everything kind of, hey, any opportunity that comes into fruition from this, well, it starts and finishes with you, man. And this is just where my priority matters because here's the deal. We're independently successful outside of the relationship we have with you. I don't need you for that. I value the relationship I have with you over an opportunity that might make a couple of bucks. And I just never want that intentional looking appropriate.
Yeah,
you know?
that's key, man. It's like to any relationship, dude. You want to be in a relationship with somebody that like compliments you. You know what I mean? Like they have what you don't have, and it's this mutual beneficial.
Like, for example, on air, you just said, hey, I'm kind of like the guy that just shows up and like, hey, what's up? Like, we'd be dead in the fucking water.
We would. I know, bro. I know.
If it weren't for me, man. If it weren't for me, we'd just be dudes just saying what's up to everybody. You know, there'd be no direction with what
this
we're doing.
dude just saying what's up to people. That
In
sounds
fact,
terrible,
why
doesn't it?
are you even partnering with this guy? It sounds like he's just draining you. Like,
Man,
I know.
You know, I thought
what
that.
does he do? What does he do for you?
I thought that. He's so good looking,
shit.
dude. He just attracts.
I told him I'm just this depreciating asset.
You know,
I'm
man.
trying to get him to admit all the good stuff that he
I
says
am.
when he's not.
I know.
He's good
All the
looking.
good stuff that you
He's
Oh,
good looking.
shit.
He's got this phenomenal dude butt.
Uncircumcised.
Like for a
5'6".
dude, he's got a really
Not that
good
there's
butt.
some 5'6" uncircumcised dude out there that is super pissed right now.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Don't call anybody on me. Nah, Eli is super good at like when he's around people.
I
It's
don't
like,
know if I can put this on my podcast. This isn't the, this isn't the
think
kind
so,
of content.
man.
This
I
isn't
know.
the kind of content that
Hey,
I put out.
I don't think so.
we have no expectation, my
Yeah.
friend. If it can't go, it can't go, right? All good. No, Eli's got his own. He's got his value, and like, yeah, with people, he might be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, dude?" But when he sits behind a computer, crafty. Yeah, like Eli is like that super crafty. He's a born entrepreneur. He's that guy that just has a unique ability to just acquire skill sets and be really good at them. You know, like
90%. That last 10% gets me, bro.
Yeah, this thing still isn't.
Yeah,
hanging right.
I know. Looks good though.
Is
It
it
looks
loose?
good.
Looks
Yeah.
all right.
Is it hanging low? It's older, it's stretched.
Yeah, right. Shit,
Anyways.
man.
Yeah.
Shit.
Get back on topic here.
I know. What the hell was our
What the hell
topic
are
to
we
start
talking
off?
about?
Tosh is trying to be sober right
My
now and
ass is-
quarterback.
these chairs are really nice. Everything
They're really
in here
cool,
is
right?
super nice, but my ass is sweating. This leather is like, it's wet down there. I can
We
I
need
can
the
smell it. I can smell my ass.
we need the AC seats,
I
man.
showered before I got here too. And
It
it's
might
like,
be that. You might just be a little bit moist.
Just getting a little excited.
It's all that, dude. I was talking about your onion booty.
He was.
I was like, hey, Eli's
That's what
got
got
a
him
great
going.
dude butt, and Tosh is like sweaty down there.
That's what got him going.
But back
Yeah.
back on topic. How do you navigate that now? So when you talk about, hey, I've gotten really good at that. Do you have any control measures in place with how you assess people? Is it now? And I guess my bigger question. So 2-part answer which one that you like. Is it more cleaning house that you have now? Or is it being really good at filtering what's coming in? Or does it have to be a combination of both? Or how are you processing how you're making these decisions
That is
now?
really cool. I'm always inviting new relationships. I think we're foolish not to, right? Meeting people. I'm always looking to make a new friend. I'm always looking to meet somebody, hear their story. The worst case is that I leave them and never know them again, but they had a positive, favorable interaction, right? Like I left them better than I found them. It's a consistent trait that I feel like, right? Like leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
It started in the Marine Corps at boot camp, and I carry it with me to an exaggerated degree in my life every day, to where it's like, hey, it's the classic. You're rolling through the checkout line at a grocery store, and you're dealing with the lady that's behind or the dude that's behind and they're just bringing groceries out for 7-8 hours a day, and listening to people say, well, did you get my coupon, or the price was this or that, and all
Or
it's
belligerently waiting
terrible.
for them to bag their groceries versus you bagging your own.
And it's like, I go through that line thinking, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave this person better than when I found him.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with a simple, hey, how you doing today? Mary. Because I looked at her name tag and called her, oh, shit. Like, bang, to her,
Yeah.
that something weird is happening because why did this person call me my first name? Oh, I'm not doing okay. And then I take the question deeper. Really? Like what? Okay, so why are you just doing okay? Well, like what could make it better? Or why isn't it great? Like what's dragging you down from great? And then we just start talking.
Need a rower? I got a rower.
What'd you do last night? Yeah. What'd you do last night? Or what are you
Yeah.
doing this weekend? Or how was your Veterans Day or your Valentine's Day or whatever, you know, and I leave that person, hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You know, have a good day. See you next, whatever it is. But I'm leaving that exchange with her better than I found it. Now, I try to use that concept with everyone. So yes, I'm onboarding acquaintances all the time. Opportunities. So-and-so's got this idea. So-and-so's got that idea. Hey, we can do some things. But like, you're
Man,
not
how do you
bringing them in
filter that?
too fucking close
Yeah,
right
'cause-
away. Because I have a tendency to do that, like to bring people in and then I build my expectations up and then I get hurt because I don't find out in advance or at the appropriate time that they had some other motives and I'm getting taken advantage of.
We feel that.
You know,
And do you see that more on like a business standpoint or a personal standpoint or both? Does it
Or it's
start
all the
off
same.
personal, but then they've got like a hook in there where they want to use you for business,
I
but
don't
it starts
know,
out
man.
personal?
Who knows? Like, who cares? It just happens,
Yeah.
whether it's personal, business, or whatever. But I started asking myself, like, how is this serving me? Like, is this serving me well? Is this relationship, like, where's it going? And then I can just leave it where it's at. I don't have to continue to invest in it. It doesn't mean that I have to cut it out and
Have
right?
this big breakup and
Right. Like I just, but like, hey, if it's moving forward, then I can start to invest in it, like you're saying, and give the person feedback and allow that person to give me feedback and bring them in closer and plan. And then you're just going to, it's just kind of naturally gonna, I really like this person or I really like this relationship. And like everything, we're humans, we make mistakes and we have faults, but there might be something that happens that, oh, like that was a negative. I'm like, oh man, like I didn't really like that. Like, it's a one-off, no big deal. It happens again. Okay, flag, right?
Yeah.
Like happens again. I'll give you some feedback. Like, hey, dude, like da 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 da. Happens again. We're fucking done.
Yep.
And then obviously, like you were talking about proportionality and escalation of force, like, and for me, nowadays it's like, okay, hey, you can talk shit about me, fine, but not a big deal. Talk shit about my wife, done. And I've just gotten to that point. Like, I'm done. I can be petty about that. I can be protective.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's not petty.
in-
If
you
people look
insult
at it
her,
like, hey, man, you're
you're
my
done.
friend, but you're saying something about my wife, right?
Yeah,
And
done.
you're not saying it to me. You're saying it outward, where it's like, hey, that's whoever you're saying that to, is that productive? How is that serving anybody? If you really have a problem with my wife and there's any level of respect to me or to her, like, why aren't we just having a conversation about what you don't care about?
I
know?
spend zero time investing in that person
Yeah.
to try to, and granted, usually these are newer relationships, or maybe they're not even relationships that I've even really started to form yet. But it's like, okay, now I'm not even going to go down that road. But I've canceled some relationships that I had with people. They just like, hey, fuck it, man. Like, why? I've lived over half of my life already. Like, why continue to live my second half of my life as poorly as I lived the first half?
Well, and I'm finding
know?
we're starting to see a little bit of it too, man. And this isn't to put us on a soapbox or anything like that, but there's a lot of entitlement that's out there where like there isn't any reciprocation of providing value. I get a lot like on my Instagram of like, now that we're starting to grow and hey, cool, we've met Andy Frisella and things like that, and like just some acquaintances that I have, and it's like some of them are from the military. They wanted me to introduce you to you. And they didn't even know your name. They were just, hey, who's that guy you had on? The Navy Cross recipient guy. And it's like, you're not even putting enough time in to just go back and look at my podcast to see the guy's name. And, oh, man, I'd just love to have him on. I'm getting my podcast going. And like we sat that guy down and really taught him how to do a podcast. You know, but like on the inside, it was like, man, like you're looking at my circle, or you're looking at people that I've met or that I interact with so much, you don't even realize like the value that I might have for you right in front of you. Like they overlook you because they're looking at your circle. And Eli remembers this because we had him on a Zoom call and we walked him through the proper equipment and what to have and how to operate it and what to do and how to create long form content and how to structure certain things. And like that helped him 10 times more than you or an Andy or someone else being on his podcast. But he was dropping, and he had emailed one of our mutual friends who also knows some accredited in the public military people, and he was so eager to get them on. I finally had to just say, hey, man, I had Andy Frisella on my podcast. Do you know how many more views I got? 37. 37 more views. It doesn't do me any, it doesn't change anything incredible to have him on my podcast. Me being on his is different. But him coming on mine, I said, dude, it's not what you think. So all these guys you keep talking about, them coming on your podcast, you don't even have a podcast yet. Like there is no consistent form of like connection to actually get it recorded and certain things. And he was still figuring it the fuck out. And I'm like, hey bro, if you get these people in front of you, you're going to fuck it up. You know, and like that's the last chance you're going to have with them. Secondly, if I go telling them to go to you, my word is watered down. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, hey, let's sit down and do the podcast. So I got Eli on there because he's just, I don't fucking do it. He does it, right? So I volunteered him to come with me, and we sat him down. But it was like, man, you were so busy looking at clout, you didn't even realize like that the guy that's been right in front of you, man. Like there's a lot of value between myself and Eli on how to just get you established that you need first. But you're chasing this, and it's almost an entitlement because I got an email from him that sounded frustrated because I just hadn't responded I responded to his other questions and I left the other stuff out of it, you know? And it was like, man, like, hey, just because so-and-so introduced you to me does not mean that like you have access to people that I know. Dude, I'm still earning those relationships. Mm-hmm. I'm in no place to introduce anybody to anyone. You know, but that entitlement, like, and I've seen it a little bit since
what a wonderful mindset to have, dude. Like a mindset that says I'm constantly earning. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. If you can hold that frame of reference with yourself, man, you know, hubris is greatest before the fall. It's funny because I was actually in the shower this morning and having some thoughts about because I was like, and I was because I got stimulated by a dude. I forget what it was exactly.
You got stimulated by a dude in the shower.
No, man, no.
You said it. Okay, you said it.
Okay. Your words.
You said it. I love you, bro.
Yeah. Fair enough. I got cued in by something that I came across, and it's just like, oh, well, I'll tell you what it is. It's this fucking Cuomo fuck from New York, right? I'll tell you exactly what it is, right?
Hell yeah.
Couldn't stand
this
that
podcast
fucking,
just got good.
Couldn't stand that fucking guy for a long time. I'll never go back to New York until they clean that shit up, right?
Yeah.
Here he is. He's throwing fingers at everybody else, and for a lot of times, it's like, hey, there's something off about him. He's no good. Is this? Is that? And he gets away with it. And he's so big, and he's so all of it, but. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he's doing all. Now I get it, innocent till proven guilty, whatever. But he's got some controversy behind him.
Yeah.
He's got some sexual harassment stuff, and he's got killing a bunch of old people, like, you know. And then I'm thinking, like, like, here's a dude. I never want to get that way. I never want to get so successful and have my success feed my success, whether I deserve to be successful or not, and think I'm entitled to it. Because once you get there, something's going to happen and you're going to fall. And you're going to fall hard and fast. And it's like, if you have this mindset that you're constantly trying to earn every day what you have. I'm trying to earn day $1.0. I'm trying to earn the respect and the love of my wife. I'm trying to earn the respect and the love of my children. I'm trying to earn the title of GMF. I'm trying to earn, you know, my opportunity to be able to do this or to do that. Like, I want to earn my friendship with you. If you keep that in the back of your mind, you will never grow to that gross degree where you become blinded to your own. And I've said it before, and like, you fall in love with your own bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and you sacrifice morale to be right. Yeah. Like, and that's what's going on in New York. You're going so far with a lot of crap. And we'll just leave it at that for the sake of being right. Versus just being able to, like in the beginning, just adjust in real time, because everyone understands COVID came out of nowhere and everybody was trying to figure it out in real time. We don't expect you to be right, but you want to be so right so early on that you start changing the narrative by doing these things to reinforce that you're right. Yeah. All the way to criminal activity.
I don't want to get into politics or anything, but
I know what you mean.
Basically, it's just that guy's a fuck.
But let's go back to small circle.
He's gotten to a point, and we don't even have to talk about him. We can talk about people. We can see people like this, that they just get to a point where they feel entitled, where that they feel they're just bigger, they're above the law, they're bigger than this, bigger than that, and then they start to do things, and they start to point at everybody else how fucked up they are, or what they're doing, and two things with that is they're putting themselves on a pedestal, and the people that listen to that put that person higher on the pedestal, or they chop themselves off at their knees, right, to put themselves lower. And what he's doing by pointing the fingers is look over there, don't look here.
Yep.
Don't look at what I'm doing. I'm going to point at you to let everybody know that you're doing some weird shit.
Yep.
So you don't see the weird shit I'm doing.
And what about your circle? You know, like Mike Tyson talked about this when he was like at his highest. Could do no wrong, could say no wrong, and he just didn't know how to manage it, right? And like all the money he was making, he was throwing money at friendships and certain things, but no one would check him. And it's like he really, and I'm sure everybody in politics and what that, and we don't have to get into it, but just whose dick you're sucking to be the next man up when that guy's done, right? And like pandering to that versus like, hey, what does your circle look like? And I have a pretty small circle, and you're a big piece to that. And I don't care what anybody tells me. No, that's not true. I care. But there are some people, their positive reinforcement, their acceptance, their encouragement carries more weight. And if I'm fake, there are a couple people in my life that are going to like pull me to the side, right? Those are the ones, you know what I mean? Like, let's use social media for an example. You get 1,000 likes on a post. There's probably 5 likes in there that you feel good that came through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Versus like all the other ones, it's not that they don't matter,
right.
but hey,
Well,
or like
value.
when you're old man, like I struggled with my dad for a long time, man. Struggled. Half of it because I didn't know what it was like to be a fucking dad. Let's just be real, right? I needed to go be a dad, and I'm starting to understand my dad more, you know, and like getting laid off in the 80s, a spaceship blew up on live television. My dad was in that world and gets laid off, and it's a struggle, and cool, you know, and then like just things, and through high school, man, and we just struggled. Let's leave it at that, right? Because I'm not here to throw my dad under the bus. He's a good dude. But we struggled. And I've talked to you about it a little bit before, you know, and but even though we struggled, you know, I'm done with baseball, a little bit of pro baseball about that long, right? And that was about my career there.
It's funny. He talks about it so much longer than his career was.
Yeah.
You ever notice
Right?
that?
I know. Yeah.
Well,
I gotta start from the
Player.
beginning.
He's got more time talking about being a pro ball player than he actually
Well,
does
it's
on
because
the
of that.
diamonds.
It's because
so
I'm
funny.
hold on. You guys can't even talk about it because okay, so there's that. And I'm a talker now, so I
shit.
have to talk.
I'm sorry. I was rude of me to interrupt.
No, it was very limited. It's
Funny
nothing. But even though I struggle with my dad, of course he matters. He's my dad, right?
Yeah.
And my dad shook my hand when I was getting on the bus to go to the airport, and he said, "Do it right." And that just meant something to me. Because even though like we struggled and I had my opinion of him, I still wanted to impress my dad. I still wanted to like have that guy fucking say I did a good job, man. And there's people now as an adult, and you start getting older, and you start becoming more friends with your parents than them parenting you. You kind of have a changing of the guard. And I know with some of our level of success in my parenting, my dad is more here with me versus like dadding me. You know, and if I need dadding, he'll give dadding, but I don't really need much dadding. It's more, I get a bond with him as a parent, right?
Peer to peer,
There's different
yeah.
conversations there now, and I'm excited for that. But between him and you and a couple of other folks, like their impression of me matters. You know, so it's like, it just doesn't, you know, and I think you need those in life because it's like, yeah, at some point, are you believing your own bullshit, or do you have enough people around you that have no dog in the fight? You know, like they're just there with great intent, telling you things you want to hear and sometimes not, but just keeping your barometer, you know, in line. And I think that's important. Like when you talk about like earning.
Barometer.
Anyways.
Anyways.
Did you know?
Oh, shit.
He finally got us.
I got him on
Hey,
one.
okay, I messed up a hard word. You messed up anyway. Who messes that one
man.
up? Everybody, but it's
I
simple.
messed that one up for a long time. That was a
But
hard
you,
one.
but you guys know what I mean. Like,
100% know what you mean.
Man,
and
like,
agree.
you've got to
surround
have
yourself with people
relationships
that
worth earning.
care about you.
Yeah, who care about it? Like, hey, man, you're fucked up right now. And you're like, but you got to care about that person, and that person has to have enough level of respect where like you'll actually hear him for a minute. Because if you don't, man, it's in one ear and out of the other. And I think that's important too.
Well, and what I think people should, you know, hopefully latch on to, and I'm taking the perspective of like, I don't come from either one of your guys' world. So it's, you know, I think I've got this, just a perspective that I think a lot of the average fucking Joes that are listening to this are going to have. Like you guys, and this is going to be a question for you, Tosh, was, and I'm genuinely curious of both of you. You guys do so much introspection. You're so very introspective. Like you're thinking of your thoughts. You're thinking, okay, why am I thinking that thought? And you're just very, like, so many people are just so reactionary to everything that's going on with them. And they're just going with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. And they're not really diving too deep into their friendships. And it's, hey, it's some rant. He's my friend because he lives next door. that's why people are
if
friends.
you're not diving deep into your relationships, you're not diving deep into you. Not to cut
that's
you
it.
off,
No,
but
that's
I think
it.
That's a starting point.
And that's my question to you guys is, where do you find, what avenue do you find that works really well for diving into yourself and your head, or is that just from just years and years and years of people that you've learned from and books that you've read and things you've applied to yourself? Where does that come from? Or is that part of your endurance shit? Is that something that comes from the endurance activities you do?
I think it's a lot. I mean, all of it. I think I've been wrong so many times. I thought I was right and have been proven that I've been wrong so many times in my life that finally it's like, oh shit, like, do I really know what I know?
Mm-hmm.
Or are there other ways of thinking, right? Like you think you know something and you got an opinion or whatever, and then somebody else gives you their opinion. It's different than yours, but it makes sense. Maybe neither of you are right, but you realize that there's other perspectives or there's other stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started, I don't know, maybe it was my time at the Naval Academy when you're supposed to be teaching. I was there as an instructor in inside Bancroft Hall, company officer, executive XO, and you're trying to mentor midshipmen into understanding who they are. You're trying to have them ask these questions themselves, like, well, what do you believe in? And what are your leadership values and principles and this and that? Well, I know that's what the military's. What are yours? Mm-hmm. And then when they tell you, and then you try to say, okay, here are the commonalities between yours and the military so that you can get them to take theirs and buy into the military, right? Mm-hmm. And you can try to make sure that they're really rooted, because when I'm not there to help guide them through things, they have to self-rely. But anyway, so I'm in this function of trying to help others ask the question of who they are. And it's like, wow, I've never really done that for myself. And then I get so pissed off with people that always have the answers. I'm like, yeah, anybody can have the answers. And I know that not all answers are right, and not all answers are right or wrong, but you always have fucking answers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People love people with answers. And I started becoming fascinated with people that had the right questions. Mm-hmm. People that asked me the right questions, that got me to think about what my answer would be. And then I'm like, wow, it's not about having the right answers. It's about having the right questions. And when I started to have the internal dialogue with myself that was shaping, like, okay, so you believe this or you have this, but well, why? Mm-hmm. Well, why not? Well, what else could you believe? Or what other explanation is there? And you started having questions. You start questioning yourself. Mm-hmm. That started to develop a habit to get this life of introspection, say the word, you say it better than I do, of self-analysis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And if you can't self-analyze, how do you self-regulate?
It's a skill. That's a hard skill set, man. Yeah. That's one that like people really, really struggle with, and I think that's one thing, I remember Mike made a comment one time when,
Mike.
Michael. Yeah. I don't know if he wants me to throw his name out there, but Michael.
Where do we know him from?
Yeah, here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, Mike. Oh, yeah. There's like 15 Mikes that we know. So Michael brought up one time, and he was like, man, like, what do you say? Like, you do a lot of thinking, or like you're in your head a lot. And he was like, I'm just kind of going, like I just kind of go.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of people are. And it kind of reminds me of like just being a craftsman of your life. Like you're literally just, how do I want to shape this thing? How do I want to shape my thoughts? How do I want to shape my emotions? And feeling this, let me control this into something that is by design, versus people just kind of show up every day and whatever the fuck happens, whatever they feel. But I think where a lot of people miss out is, there's so much focus on the outside and controlling your environment and, setting up your nice, efficient, productive desk space and watching the people that are in your life. So many people, I think, forget to just, man, it starts with the inside, and learning your own thoughts and emotions and feelings.
And we have a conscience. Like everybody has that voice in their head. Mm-hmm. Everybody has conversations with them. What I'm getting at is everybody's born with it, right? Like
something's there. Yeah.
I don't know if you're born. I don't know where it comes from. Everybody has conversations with themselves in their head, right? So
I don't know. Feelings, random feelings, random thoughts. You all know that voice. Yeah.
Simple.
There's a voice in there.
I'm in my head right now, right? Like, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I just bought some Cheetos. Yeah, I'll go eat some Cheetos. That's a conversation in your fucking head. Everybody has it. Yeah. What I'm getting at is like, mine just came from mentorship, and it definitely was around in the Marine Corps, especially as you become a leader, and then getting on to and paying attention to certain podcasts and listening to yours and engaging with you years ago kind of really sparked it. And some of my maturity and poise and necessity to get better at myself when I was growing from the ground up, I had to be a better me in order for it to work. So there was a lot of necessity to be a better version of myself to create change within my environment. And then just the education from the podcast and hearing how people process thought and conversations with themselves. I already have the voice and the conversation in my head. I just need to give it some direction, and I need to train it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like you already know how to walk.
Repetitions.
But if someone guides you on where to walk, and then they teach you how to walk faster and jog faster and put a pack on and carry a load,
follow a map.
but you already have the thing that's needed.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel
controlling it.
right. Like everybody has that conversation with themselves in their head, whether it's about masturbation, the junk food, or the food you want to eat, or the clothes you're going to go buy. And like, well, yeah, but I don't think about why. Okay. But you have the conversation in your head. You just haven't had any period of instruction or guidance or mentorship on how to direct some of those thoughts and some of those conversations you have with yourself to start asking the right questions, like you talk about. So I don't take any credit for mine. I take credit on the ability to consistently be productive with it, but it came from the leadership I had. It came from podcasts, like I guess there is a blessing to social media.
Podcast is a good one, man, because, like he is right. Like listening to yours when it is long form and you're not trying to do a 3-minute Instagram video, you do get to hear someone's thought process, and that is really interesting just to hear
so educational.
Someone's brain work as they're articulating thought and stuff. And that's why, again, I love yours. You just get on and you just fucking talk, there's no, there's a lot of really successful podcasts that have this template that they go off of and the same questions that they asked every guest. Cool. But you do get to hear your thought process as you're kind of going
some of
along.
the good ones, especially when I'm struggling through things. I mean, that's what I wanted to do when I set out, was a podcast for my kids to hear how to think, not what to think. And it's like, I get triggered by something or something influencing me, and then you start to have a response, and then you want to like understand why you're having this response, and you want to understand how you could have a different response if you chose to. And you just start unpackaging everything. And I try to do that out loud especially when things are bothering me. And when, I go through these stretches, I go through these highs and these lows, and right now I'm kind of riding a nice high and I'm not really bothered by too many things, but then I'll start to get into a low, and I think talking about them out loud to hear myself, when I start talking about things out loud to myself, I'm like, did I just say that? Does that really make sense, Tosh? Because Eli, they're not here to say, Tosh, you're full of shit right now. And so when you hear it out loud to yourself, and then you're accountable because you're recording it, it helps me think. And I don't
slow down a little. And
dude, I'm a big verbalizer. It helps me process thought a lot. Talk to this dude all the time, and I might be bitching about something, and if you just keep listening, it turns into it gets constructive, and then we go have to face the situation that we're facing in business, and I'm super polite and dialed, and exactly what needs to happen happens. But I gotta get how I really feel. I gotta get it fucking out of me.
And that's knowing yourself.
But then it's like, okay,
that's it too. Yeah. Like he's an external processor.
Yeah.
And he's looking for validation. And sometimes it's self-validation, but he's going through that process. Like other people are post-processors. Some people are, I this way, like somebody says something, you're like, and you just go with it and you feel awkward. But then when you get home, like 8 hours later, like, man, this would have been the perfect response.
That's my wife. That's why we're perfect, because I win every argument.
Some people are like that. Some people are a little bit more quick on the cuff. Yeah. Some people are internalized. They internalize a lot, and they have to be quiet, and they don't.
Dude, it's true, but you gotta.
But knowing your friends, knowing yourself is cool. But knowing the people that you love, I think is cooler, because then you know how to support them through their processes to help them be better. Yep. And that's what. That's a mark of a good friend, a good companion.
Like my wife and I, we will text our arguments sometimes. Straight up.
You're playing on her field, though.
But
you're giving her home court advantage.
Dude, she told me, she goes, you process thought so quick, and you've got some things to rebuttal and counter so quick. I'm just not prepared.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not because I'm smarter than her. Like half the shit I'm saying, look, it's like pitching, right? Very few pitches are effective. A lot of them are distractions. Some of them are not strikes on purpose, right? To throw the batter off. out of the 10 things I say to my wife, like one of them might be legit. The other ones are probably just getting her stuck in the weeds to distract
So
and
funny.
deflect from
so
a
he
point.
mind
right?
fucks his wife.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh,
the only.
yeah.
Hey,
That
Dude.
sounds like a pure
Hey,
relationship. To me.
married
It does.
with
It does. He's like, hey, I'm getting fucked one way or another.
Man, I'm
yeah.
just gonna deception.
married-
Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors.
married with kids.
Shit.
Only fucking.
He's like, I'm getting laid one way or another, man.
But the biggest thing was like, I do, and she likes to just sit and process. And man, I'll especially when you're both emotional about something, I'll talk over. And like I saw that, so there's times where like, yeah, we'll have the conversation over text message, and it's like, I'll say something and she'll respond, and then don't go sending 6 messages at once. Like just let it come through, read it, respond, and it just slows some things down. And this is also just falling back to like that works for us. Right. I'm not saying that you need to be intimate through text message and that's it. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that tool, we figured out a way to like, because that, it doesn't last forever, but that tool that we use sometimes, it diffuses so we can actually get back to a real conversation. But if people are heated and I am taking advantage subconsciously because I'm emotional and I'm talking quicker than her, I'm taking advantage of that situation, whether I'm intending to or not. I'm just emotional. But if we use that and it diffuses, we can get back to in person. Like the bottom line is, it just works. It works for us.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, you're doing it because you care.
Right.
Yeah, and I love that, dude. Like, there's just something to like. We had a situation with clients this past week, man, and a lot of phone calls, a lot of phone
Eli
calls.
had to be Will this weekend.
A lot
It
of
was
back
fucking
and
good.
forth. No, but so much of the conversation from the other party was who's right or who's not, and I kept trying to divert it back to, hey, right or not, how do we make everyone happy here, right? Yeah. How do we take care of clients? Bottom line, how do we take care of clients? It doesn't matter who's right. Let's say we're all right. Hey, fuck it, we're all right. Okay? Because normally when there's a disagreement, hey, everyone thinks they're fucking right. Yeah, everyone, and a lot of times, man, everyone is right in a way.
Lenses. You might be
yeah.
right from your lens and from how you saw something.
But hey, what's the goal here? Did everyone be right or take care of the clients? Bottom line is take care of the clients. And once you get to that resolution, or your wife or your friend or your daughter or whatever, and then it's like, okay, cool. They're the priority, and then cool. Hey, let's home court advantage. Here we go. Yeah. Let's argue through text message. Yeah. I can picture that too. It's probably like sitting on the couch, like opposite couches, and like one text, and you just look at it, and you're like,
they're probably sitting next to each other.
Man. Yeah,
kind of like holding each other, and then like as you're typing, he's looking over at it. Oh shit, I'm getting ahead of this, so I got my answer already ready.
Yeah, like cheating on the test.
Eli like comes in, he tells me about it, and he's like, "Oh man, it's just like rough," and like me, like super supportive. I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm doing workout sets with Tosh on a rower." It reminds me of that 70s show where the kid, the main character kid, was like super sad and he was crying. And his mom was like, "Oh, here, let me put your dad on the phone." He's like, "No, Mom, wait, no." So Red gets on the phone. He's like, "How?" He's like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Oh, just bad day or something." He's like, "Are you crying?" He's like, "Yeah, I just had a bad day." And he's like, "I was in Vietnam. Try a bad life." And he just hangs up on the fucking kid. Like, I felt like that's how I reacted to you.
I like it. I like it that you're on the rower, man. Like,
I love it.
I think we can do some good things with you if you can hang. I don't know if you got the staying power, but we'll find out.
I don't know if it's that because you're like,
I'm totally eating this.
Yeah, you
things
do.
about me. It's almost time for me to go.
No, you're good. I don't know if it's that or if it's like the want,
The want to perform,
like to keep up with you or something like that. So you're rowing the Atlantic. We should talk about that before you leave.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
We've talked about being
sweat.
uncircumcised twice, not the fact that you're rowing the goddamn Atlantic.
Yeah, well, if you're not circumcised, clean that thing out before you go because that can hinder you, man.
Oh, man.
But it's also like the want, too, right? Because when he's busting my balls, I don't know if you got the capacity or whatever to, like, keep up. And it's like, man, or the want. What do you feel about wants, goals? Because, like, I've got a goal and a want right now as far as, like, aesthetics, right? Yeah. And at what point does that hinder me from going further with capacity? When they become conflicting? Or were you just busting my balls about not keeping up with you on a rower? Both.
I have no idea what you're saying right now. And I'm
you
wondering
said I
if
couldn't
it makes
keep
any fucking sense.
Well, you said, hey, I wonder if it's like
Eli,
if you
anything that he asking.
Fuck yeah.
What is he asking? You tell me, what is he asking?
Okay, here's what I think.
Well, just to go back to what he said.
Yeah.
I might not have heard you right. I don't know. Were you saying you don't know if I could, like, hey, if you do some things right, you could keep up?
I don't know if I don't know if you're going to keep doing the rowing thing. I think you're going to just kind of like, too hard for me, and you're just going to peter out.
And what Will is saying is, how far or can it be a hindrance? Like your desire to accomplish something. At what point does that desire ultimately become a hindrance because your focus is in the wrong place?
When I don't have a finish line, when you're like, hey, you might dwindle out. Well, I might, in your opinion, be dwindling out. But what if I accomplish what I set out for, and I've crossed my finish line? If you haven't given me a goal or a finish line, and every week is blind, well, then the finish line is predicated on me and whatever goals I've got. And then,
you're starting to understand. Now you're starting to understand Diesel Day and how it affects our everyday lives.
I'm fucking done rowing.
Do we actually have end states for our lives? Do we know when the finish line is? You know, we can set these goals, and what a goal setting. Like, it's all been overplayed over the last 10, 15 years, right?
Agree.
Like, oh, but we're going to use the SMART acronym for goals, right? And like, okay, cool, like, got it. But people that have to constantly have these conversations about goal setting that are using these tricks, it ain't working for them.
Yep.
So I know what your goals are. We've talked about them. You know what you're looking to do.
Yep.
I don't have to define anything for
I'll
you.
never
All
stop
I need to know
rowing.
is
That's
to make
for sure.
sure that you know what you want.
Yep.
You've communicated to me what you want.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, I'm betting on it, that you have enough trust in me to know, like, okay, hey, Tosh has my best interest at heart.
Yep.
And I don't know what he's got fucking doing, but I know if I just keep doing it, I trust him, and he's a good motherfucker. Like, he's gonna get me there. And when he trusts me enough that when I say, hey, I'm getting off the bus, Tosh is gonna be like, cool. It was time for him to get off the bus because he's where he wants to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And here's why I have that trust in you, though. Like, we have enough relationship to where I went over my goals and some things. Like, hey, cool. Hey, you know what? And I was like, man, I kind of like that rower. You know, like I did a Diesel Day. I'm like, hey, here's my goals. Do you think the rower would help? You go, yeah. Matter of fact, just grab one of mine. Hey, I got a couple here. Grab one up. And when I have an event, bring it back. And when we're done, take it back. This will definitely help you. And then we had, during our first couple weeks with our sets on the rower, I had one conversation where I said, hey, how does this work? Because, hey, man, I reiterated my goals. And you go, yep. But, hey, there's also HIIT. There's also this. There's also capacity for this. And you reinforce that, hey, I've still got your goals in mind. And I feel like that conversation it definitely helped me because I felt better just reminding. And then you reiterated the process, but then it no longer needs to be discussed. That's where trust starts right there. I was like, hey, can I just remember? Hey, here's what I'm thinking. Yep, I know. Here's how this works. Okay, roger that, and we're done. And for the record, I don't think I'll ever be like done rowing, man. Like, I'm big on like whatever gets you there keeps you there too, right? So if you're looking, well, to an extent,
I like that, but I want to think about that before
Okay.
I just leap in and agree with you.
So
I
hear me
like
out on
what
it.
you're saying.
So hear me out on it. Like, I've got goals for like, hey, I'm losing a certain amount of weight, and I've got a set of goals of having a certain physical appearance in addition to performance, right? A lot of folks in the bodybuilding world, hey, we do the stair steppers and it's super effective. You sweat your balls off, right? And you get shredded. I get super tuned out on it because it's boredom for me, right? So take it how you may. I don't do it, right? So I love getting on that rower because it's harder. It's more deliberate, but I also feel like I've got more of an athletic movement with it. And like, hey, having an athletic background, I just enjoy that. It makes me feel more functional. The stairs, I don't feel more functional. I don't feel more athletic. I don't get anything else from it, and therefore there's no value to me. Or the value of getting lean doesn't outweigh the pain of having to get on it, right? If that makes sense. But when I find something that works for me and I get dialed in and it gets me and it helps get me to a goal, it's also going to help keep me at that goal. Doesn't mean that the training sets won't change.
Right.
It also doesn't mean I won't do more with it. Who knows? Maybe I'll be in some rowing competition one day. I don't know. But the point is, like, just let that go where it may.
It's an effective tool.
It's an effective, and that tool can grow into other activity, other experiences. Great. Or it can be a tool that just changes and it still keeps you effective. But I do know that effective tools that get you somewhere, some consistent like implement of that tool does also help maintain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's effective, but it's effective because of it's helping you get to where you want to go, whatever. But I think another piece of being effective is that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think, in the CrossFit space, in the beginning, in the early stages, 2005, 2006, when I was introduced, and then they were big on bashing a lot of bodybuilding and bashing like people that were on a Stairmaster or would get at the treadmill or would do these things because it was less effective than the CrossFit methodology. And that is true when you're looking at it from functional or the
straight
physiological
data
benefits, like, hey, body fat down, the efficiency, the rate of efficacy, like to get to where you want to go in a timely period, right? Like, yes, those statements are true, but because I love to run, and I love to run long, because I would get up. I was sleeping in my office at the barracks, and I would get up and I would run the hills of Pendleton up in Mateo, and I would go for 10, 15 milers to run the back hills. And it was therapeutic for me. I was having some of the best conversations with myself. And hey, whether it was the most efficient use of my time to get the fitness needs that I wanted to get or not, didn't matter. It was psychologically beneficial, and I enjoyed it. And when you add those two subjective components to what's effective, which is it's less about being subjective, it's more about being, quantitative, right? Less qualitative and more quantitative, then the conversation gets different. And if the Stairmaster is more effective from the physical metrics of measurement and whatever, right? The quantitative measurements, but you don't like the Stairmaster, so you don't do it, is it really effective because you're not doing it?
Right.
You love the rower, and the rower, whether it's more effective or less effective physically for whatever, doesn't matter, but you like doing it and you're feeling challenged, and you're like, it is the most effective tool for you for what you want to do.
And that's where you just got to dive into, like,
there.
What are you going to do? You look at your plate of food and like, I hate broccoli. I'm not going to eat broccoli. Okay. What are you going to eat? And that's how we kind of like roll with it with our kiddos, right? Like, cool, you don't eat broccoli? Cool. What are you going to eat? Spinach?
That does.
What am I going to put on the
provides
plate?
the same value that broccoli does.
Nutrient dense something is going on that plate.
It's got to fill the broccoli requirements in terms of what it's providing.
And then just freedom of choice. But then you're like, okay, yeah. But it's good because it does change the conversation for yourself. Like, yeah, what am I going to do? And like, I'd never done that until Diesel Day. But for some reason, like, I felt like my numbers weren't terrible on there. And I was like, man, like, I wasn't great at it, right? Like, it's the first time I've ever done it. But I felt like, man, that's a challenge I'm kind of excited about. If you're kind of excited about that movement and growth into that, you're going to use it. Man, maybe I should dive into that.
The design behind Diesel Day is to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
And like, while we're doing that, to also expose them to realizing that where they think they're at is artificial and self-limiting.
That's
right?
what you call Eli. Eli was artificial and self-limiting.
If I can get rid of that self-construct that limits you from being where you could be, instead of just throwing you to where I think you should be or where you want to be or whatever, like, hey, I'm going to meet you where you're at, but I'm also going to tackle and attack and set conditions so that you can tackle and attack that ceiling that you've set for yourself.
Fuck, man. Not even a ceiling, dude. Like, I'd never even gotten more than 3 miles on anything prior to Diesel Day. I feel like I got a baseline by going to Diesel Day because I didn't know what I didn't know. That's why I didn't look at the scoreboard once. I wasn't trying to do shit. I wasn't trying to do anything. I'm like, all I know is I've never gone more than 3 miles, whether it's walking or running or anything like that. I'm just going to put my head down and go here. But I feel like now that's been such a good reflection point for me as a baseline because now going forward, now I'm like, okay, let's find out what the ceiling is.
Yeah.
But I know what my baseline is, know? So just really interesting, man, from exactly what you said, from someone who like I lift weights and stuff like that, but I don't really do much more than that. Outside of jiu-jitsu a couple times a week, but
touch butt.
Yeah, touch butt. Yep. But man, such a good baseline, dude.
Penises and butts, this guy.
I like him.
I like him.
I like him. I'm okay. You guys are the ones fighting it.
Shit, man.
Dude, right on. And the other thing about Diesel Day, though, Eli, is like a lot of the things that we talk about and that we mentor through are we use the Diesel Day, the physical event, is just really the vehicle to shape a way of thinking that you can transfer into life and relationships and business.
And you need duress.
Like,
you need duress.
We need to do that, right?
You can't just sit down and think a lot. Like, you got to go, the physical part, like that vehicle, I feel like I had been through a decent level of physical things through my prior careers, right? But I hadn't done it in a long time. And like, but even somebody that kind of like had came from that background and thought I knew what to expect there. There was some challenges I did not expect or didn't see, and you're just not going to see until you're in it. But there's pondering and sitting and having deep conversations. Yeah, they're beneficial. Physically putting yourself into something and then having to think through certain obstacles and conflicts with yourself during moments of duress. It's way different. It's talking about fighting. Yeah, you can talk about fighting. You can talk about basketball and learn a lot.
You're doing it.
You can watch a lot of tape on basketball or football and learn a lot. It's way different when you're in the game.
It is crazy.
You got to get in the game with yourself.
How Arnold Schwarzenegger had the quote of like, you could tap on what do you say? You can tap on a stick of dynamite with a pencil all day long. Nothing's going to happen. You hit it one time with a hammer, it's going to fucking explode. When you look at just these concentrated things, whether it's a Diesel Day or fucking taking 5 grams of mushrooms or something. Like
Jesus Christ.
just this concentrated 8 hours of, man, fuck your world up. How much of an impact that can have on your perception and your reset and just your pathways. Like you mentioned, just your defaults, your system defaults. Someone cuts you off in traffic. There's a software program that runs. Everyone's program's a little different. It's going to go this way, it's going to go that way, but that's a predetermined action. And it's like, man, sometimes you need those things just to reset that software, the auto software that just runs. Someone cuts you off in traffic and it's like, you ate 5 grams of mushrooms a week before and you're like, man, was he trying to kill me? Or did he just not see? And man, I think I did that to someone 3 miles back. You know, like,
see what
I won't lose my shit.
He's trying to get you to do mushrooms. He's been trying to get me to do mushrooms for like 4 years now.
The shiitakes, the shiitakes, or
yeah.
That's some people benefit.
Yeah.
My biggest benefit to Diesel Day was taking my headphones off. I had this whole plan. Yeah,
Eli had headphones on the entire
I
time.
did.
I'd be talking to Eli.
I was crushing hard, man.
Fucking steroids.
I did.
Dude, you were sauced.
I did.
You were sauced.
Trust me, I've been reflecting on that, bro.
You were mentally sauced for Diesel Day.
I've been reflecting on that.
I don't want to hear about your score.
Yeah.
But it was, and I had a game plan. I brought mine, like, hey, cool. And like, for some reason, right when we were starting, because we were starting on some of the cardio first, and I don't want to give anything away. And I just was like, no.
Some of the scariest conversations you'll ever have are the ones that you have with yourself. If they're genuine.
Yeah.
Right?
But you're also proud of them. Like, I had some of those with myself, especially on
most
the hike.
formative. Yeah.
Especially on the hike. But I was also proud that I was having them, and I wasn't saucing mentally.
I
Eli
was, man.
mentally juiced out of his
I was. I wasn't ready for it.
You put Joe Rogan on that mountain with you, and
But you know what? He ate probably 150 less pickles than you did.
Fucking pickles.
So back to the penis comments, right? Like,
No, I'm talking about
I was
pickles.
keeping
You
my
just
mind
kept
off
eating
of
dill
it.
pickles. You
One
ate like
bite, too.
4 jars of dill pickles.
They were
We actually had to go to the store and buy 2
more
more
pickles.
jars of pickles.
Okay.
That's
It
so
wasn't.
funny.
It wasn't just me, was it? It might have been. Look, I'm a bigger dude, so when you need that sodium,
Pickles are good
I just
shit.
need more sodium than you do. You're
Carolyn
what do you
was
weigh,
like,
120?
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Will eats a lot of pickles.
You know what I told Carol? I told her, I was like, now you know how I got a good looking dude like Eli.
That's right.
Hey, take these lessons.
Dude can eat a pickle for sure.
Before we get out of here, I want to talk about just some of your endurance stuff and mentally why you do it.
Is it okay? I'm just
Yeah,
challenging.
eat, man. Do your thing. Low stress.
Is this microphone, this fancy stuff, cutting out my chewing?
No, you're good.
No, even with that, it's 10 times better than yours.
Oh, the dip spit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had any alcohol or chewing tobacco in this day 8.
I got you that beef jerky chew. You haven't even used it. I felt like that was such a clever gift for you today.
I'm taking it home with me though.
Good. You know what you should do is put that in, like let Nicole or James or somebody see that and trick them.
Yeah.
With your endurance stuff, why? What do you get from it? And then, why do you keep returning to that? A lot of people could see that as like, man, is that detrimental to your body? Are you aging quicker? I'm sure you've heard a lot of stuff with the extreme endurance things that you do. And then answering those questions, I definitely want to hear more about you guys rowing the Atlantic coming up and what made you guys choose that, and what challenge about that are you excited about?
Well, it's a cool conversation because it's something that I talk to myself about all the time. Because every time I get done with an event, I'm like, yeah, fuck this, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. And then 3 weeks later, sometimes 2 weeks, oh man, like another cool idea or this or that, Some of it's medicating myself maybe. Some of it is just I enjoy it. But I think the largest part of it is like I'm pushing myself in different ways. I'm always learning something about myself during these events. And when we say endurance events, it didn't start out being 500-mile events or 200-mile events or 100-hour events. It started out as a simple 10-mile run, or a 20-mile kayak or a triathlon. And it just kind of grows and grows as you grow with it. And every time that I push myself to find where my limits are so that I can figure out who I am when I'm being stressed at my limits, so that I can figure out how to design to be better in that scenario of challenge, of stress, of uncertainty. And so I like to keep putting myself in those constant stressed environments, things that I can't control, to see how I'm going to respond, so I can get an accurate reflection of what my talents really are, so that I don't overcommit to saying that I'm going to do something and then I don't do it. And then people are disappointed in me or I hurt somebody or worse, right? And I want to know my capabilities right here, right now, the whole performance on demand type thing. And it's just about knowing me, who I am. And then inevitably, as the events got longer and longer, it changed. Meet some amazing people. I've been asked, like, well, why don't you just stick to one thing and try to do better and better at that one thing? I'm like, hey, that's fair. Some people dedicate their whole life to being the fastest 50-miler or the fastest marathoner or the Ironman, and that's what gets their rocks off, and that's what pushes them to their limits. I don't like that. I'd like to dabble in different things, and every time I get good at something, I like to try something new.
You're an
Try
explorer.
something new.
Yeah,
and explore. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So
The Mark Twain of the endurance world. I like it. Yeah.
And I'm not even really I'm not even like, put me on the spectrum of endurance athletes. I'm not successful in terms of comparison, like to some degree, like, oh, this guy is, but I'm successful to me for what I'm trying to accomplish and do. I enjoy going to cool places. I enjoy meeting cool people. I like being stressed. I like the relationships that I form, and I like just kind of understanding and knowing and getting different questions to ask to myself when I'm under different sorts of influence, right, or stimulus, positive and negative. So
How do you
that's
feel?
why I do it.
Yeah, and like when you're going from those, what are the biggest takeaways from the practical application of it into life? Like, does it help you with business? Does it help you with your personal relationships, your professional relationships? Like, is there anything you take from those that you apply into other funnels as well, or does it just serve more internal?
I'd like to think that by serving internal, that it does affect whether I can identify it or not, right? Like, I feel like if it makes me feel better about me, it gives me more talent, more competency, more whatever, then in turn it's making me better elsewhere.
Yeah.
Whether we can measure it or identify it or put a finger on it, I don't know, don't care. I trust that that's happening. But it hasn't been until recently, though. I started through podcasts like this and people asking questions and just doing a lot of self-analysis, like, and then being present in the moment when I'm struggling with things that I did. I designed my whole checking in with the left hand thing. And those things actually are providing great benefit to me in my outside life. Clint Bruce, a buddy of mine now, he's actually working with us to help us be successful for this row across the Atlantic. He made a comment, it's the skills that we learned on the battlefield that are relevant to the boardroom, the ball field, and the breakfast table. And I was like, wow, interesting. We learn these skills on the battlefield. They're relevant on the ball field, in the boardroom, and at the breakfast table, meaning in play. So combat, in play, in profession, and in relationships, right? The breakfast table being your relationship. And I was like, wow, that's a really cool. He said it better than I'm saying it now, but I'm giving credit to Clint because he probably got it from somebody else, but Clint gets the credit. It just made me think, like, yeah, that's what the checking in with the left hand is all about. It's these skills that I've gleaned from athletic endeavors in the battlefield or my military service that allowed me to be able to cope, manage, endure, excel in uncertain times, stress times, and whatever's, right? And then I just started looking and reflecting and collecting, and then what were the concepts that allowed me to be successful? And so I just kind of distilled them down to those. And now I like to do these endurance events and use those intentionally to validate them or disvalidate them or to refine them so that I can articulate them to other people better. But they kind of come naturally to me now, like just through repetition. I don't even know I'm using them half the time.
I felt like every time Tosh looked away from me, I had my left hand middle finger up. No, but man, it was
that
such.
one comes in handy.
Man, I check in with, and if you guys don't know what that is, go to Tosh's Instagram. It's tosh.crookedbutterfly.
Yep. I think I'll post something about it this week, but it's on my business one, the Crooked Butter. I don't even know
Crooked
what it
Butterfly.
is. Crooked
Yeah.
Butterfly.
Crooked
I think
Butterfly.
it is. Yeah,
It's
I posted
phenomenal.
to the business.
And I use it to this day, and I have a little bit of I don't know if it's a fear, but especially from like the fitness world that we've seen, we see a lot of people, where they want to build strength and challenge themselves to failure and all that becomes like their safety blanket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they don't push goals in business or with personal relationships, but they're, hey, you're admired and your squat, your deadlift, or this, it's like, it's great. Or like the endurance side, use that for an example, right? But it becomes that person, like what is so challenging and new of an experience for others, it's that person's safety blanket. You know, like I have my own struggles with certain things. What I really started paying attention to was like goals. And we, you know, like, okay, your squat, you have a squat goal, or you have a certain body percent fat goal or endurance. I really started focusing on, hey, what's a personal goal? Like, do I have a goal for my family? Do I have a goal to like make us, you know, to earn a certain enough or put enough aside for a vacation? Or is there a personal goal there? And then, hey, what's my professional goals in business? Hey, do I have some things? And I don't mean like I need to make this much money, but just my goals are a little bit more abstract than that. And I think they work for me. But am I cognizant of having that conversation with myself in the first place? Or do I always fall back to my safety blanket?
Default safeties, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about that with the left hand too, the ring finger being goals, and you got to have internal motivators and external motivators.
Yeah.
You know, and it's pretty cool. I mean, that's a large part. You had asked, like, so the second part of the question, I'm just kind of ripping to go, and I got to pee. I drank two of
that
these.
you did.
Yeah,
That's a
you're
lot.
good.
Bad boys
Because we're
friends.
not live, he's going to edit this little spot out right here.
Put that right.
And you'll just come right back on. And I'm not going to say anything bad about you, nothing. We'll just
shit.
edit this little window out.
No. We're going. I got discipline.
I mean,
That's right.
whoever pees first.
So, man, there used to be when I was in college, there was a bar night, and it was called Break the Seal.
Oh no.
So
Don't break the
everybody
seal.
could drink for free until somebody broke the seal.
Oh,
Or I don't even
shit.
know if it was drink for free, but it was like
Yeah.
50-cent drafts, whatever, like, right?
Until one person
Until
took a
one
piss.
person took a piss.
Oh, shit.
And it got bad to where
Oh, yeah.
people were blocking the doors, people were pissing all over the bar, and then somebody who broke the seal,
God.
everybody was already ripper drunk that they just beat this person's ass, and it just got bad. They had to
That's
stop
good
it.
old days,
But that's
man.
the break the seal.
old days.
Jesus, that was back in like 96, man,
Damn.
97.
Holy shit, you're old.
But anyways, so you asked me, like, okay, so we're going to roll across the Atlantic Ocean,
Yep.
right? 3,000 miles. Why am I doing that? Well, originally, these two team guys reached out to Taco
Yep.
and said, hey, we're doing an epic challenge. You know anybody that'd be interested in doing something epic, an adventure? And Taco was like, oh, well, text Tosh and Chris. So they did. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, okay, hey, these guys, like, if Taco's saying they're fucking cool, they got to be cool. That's the GMF thing, right? Like,
Yep.
that's how it works. And so I was like, yeah, right on. And so we started a conversation, little email conversation, whatever. And I'm thinking, like, well, we're going to design an adventure. We're going to hike the Rocky Mountains, or we're going to kayak the Mississippi, or we're going to do something, whatever, right? We were going to design something. And then I find out that Brian, one of the other teammates, they already had figured out what we want to do, but he soft pitches is, hey, have you guys ever heard of this? Meanwhile, him and Jim, they were already decided that we were doing this, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, that looks pretty cool. Like, that's fucking gnarly, but yeah, that'd be fun. Like, sounds like a cool challenge. Row 3,000 miles from Gomorrah, Spain to Antigua, right? I'm like, okay, hey, cool. Like, yeah, that sounds like fun. I could get behind that. And so we decided that we were going to do that. And then, but that was just like the first step, because now they're continuing to soft pitch us. And they're like, oh, well, let's do it. Like, you know, let's really push ourselves and let's do it, you know? And this is where it gets uncomfortable for me, because I typically don't sign up for things or do undertakings to win or to be the best or any of that. I like, hey, I want to just experience the course, and I want to do the best I can, and I want to meet these goals, and I want to find myself, and I want to push, and I don't want to be the weakest person on the team or whatever it is. And I've been having, the timeliness of this is strange, because I've been having these conversations with myself, like, is that just the narrative that I keep feeding myself to be in a comfortable space?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, it's not that narrative, because that's what I truly enjoy. I don't really have the time or the energy to dedicate towards winning. It's not even who I am. Like, an unrealistic goal to think that I'm going to win this. Well, why is it unrealistic? And then these are the questions I'm having.
That's the shit I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe I am. Maybe I am just telling myself that I do these things for these reasons because I'm afraid to do those. And it's a safety blanket. And I have an out. And then it just starts to tweak me. And then, you know, you're drinking some whiskey that night, and you're this and you're that. And it's like, and it's
I'm
just
a
like your
bitch.
head's going in all kinds of different places, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, hey, cool. Then this falls into my lap. And it's like, boom. And then these two guys are like, well, we want to set the world record. I'm like, whoa. Set the world record. Wait a minute. Like, none of us experience house, wheelhouse, super rowers, like we're familiar or something, but like you think we're gonna roll onto the world rowing stage, row across the Atlantic Ocean, and break a world record? Like that sounds audacious. That sounds pompous. That sounds arrogant. Like,
and if you haven't looked at it, it does kind of sound like that, because it's one thing to want to compete and have a killer instinct. It's another to be a little arrogant, thinking that like that's where the bar should be.
Right. Oh, and setting a world record is above and beyond winning the race. Like you could, let's just win the race. Like that, to me, that's even scary. But now we're talking about setting a world fucking record. And I'm like, okay, hey, let me just sit down and think about what this really, really means.
Yeah, I got to look at it.
So now I got two conversations in my head. That one, but then I have this other one that the ocean, that's scary. Like that's not someplace, like I've been in sailboats and I got a boat and I sail a little, but like I've always had this massive respect for the ocean. And it's scary to me.
You ever been on ship?
I think I've got like 3 or 4 years of sea
dude.
But anyways, you know, I have this, it's not a fear, but it's an apprehension. There's an uncertainty. You're powerless. You have to really like submit to it and just try to cooperate with it. And she can be soft and easy, but she can be violent. And, you know, they're talking like storms and 16-foot or 10-meter waves and 12-meter waves. And I'm just like, oh man, like this sounds gnarly. And then I'm reading a book and I'm looking at a Netflix video about the dudes that went across the Pacific. And I'm just like, I'm getting anxious in here about this. And you want to set the world record. Like it doesn't, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, fuck it, I'm in. I'm in. And I had a conversation with the guys. I said, before I say I'm in, like, let's have a conversation, because I don't want to dedicate 2 years of my life prioritizing this to set a world record, to get in the shell and find out on day 7 that you did not prioritize it.
Right.
And in fact, I wasted 2 years of my life over prioritizing this, and you didn't take it serious.
Yep.
And so we had this long, deep conversation with the teammates and like, hey, is this goal even realistic? Like, well, like if we're not going to move the goalposts yet, but like if we control everything that we possibly can control, it's absolutely realistic, especially with a time frame. Now, because it's a realistic goal, then even though it seems like a stretch, we still may not get it, no matter how hard we try and prepare, because the uncontrollable of the ocean. Now that excites me again. Like I get to control the things I can control in my own effort and do this, and we're still going to be pitted against something else that's not necessarily pitted against us, but it could be perceived that's pitted against us, right? If things are going unfavorably, we have no control over. And I'm just like, okay, so both of those conversations, I said, fuck it, I'm in, man. And so we're training. I don't know what we're doing, but we're training. We're trying to find some money. So if you're listening, like we need $500,000. We're already 30,000 deep out of our own pocket because we can't get people to give us some money. But we need to come up with 50 grand before March 24th to pay for that second half of the boat.
Yeah, like
but
20,
I think
20
we're working
days.
with some great partnerships. You know,
Good.
we're gonna Mauna Lanu water. We were talking earlier offline about water bottles, plastic water bottles being single use, even though we think plastic's recyclable when we take them. It's a great untruth in the world. Like only 7% of all plastics are even being recycled. You know, and so they're all these water bottles are single use. Like here, you'll find this in the ocean in a couple weeks. We'll sell it to Canada. Canada will sell it to Thailand.
true,
Thailand
man.
will
Dude, could
just
you
ship it out to the
imagine
ocean
like they're creeping on the world record and they're coming into shore and then like this like
Pellegrino bottle.
just like fucking just net of like shit
Oh shit.
gets in stuck in one of the oars, like snaps it in half.
Pellegrino.
They gotta coast in. They
Google
miss
it.
by like 6 minutes.
There's a giant, like it's a couple 100 miles long.
Yeah.
This trash drift in the
Yep.
Pacific.
Yep,
I
yep.
forget what it's called, but Google it. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, we're partnering with them. We're going to try and do this to raise awareness for ocean conservation, environmental stewardship, and service. You know,
Not
veterans doing
Pellegrino.
service.
Who
No,
are you
not
trying to partner
Pellegrino.
with?
Mauna Lanu. It's Jason
There you
Momoa's
go.
water
There
company.
you go.
They're putting water in aluminum cans because aluminum's 100% recyclable. We've got a few other strategic partnerships, trying to work with the Naval Academy. I'm selling people short here. We've got Resilient Nuts, who's going to do all of our long range fuel design. They're the leading edge on long range fuel design. They've got they fed and fueled the current world record holders back in 2019. So we've got them on board to help us.
How do you guys do you guys have people working with you to go get these sponsors and talk about it, or do you guys go out there and talk about it?
Not really.
Or they come to you?
Well, we're trying to get the word out. We need to be a little bit better at what we're doing. We've got a couple people that are pushing. We're starting to get some momentum. So doing this right here is a big share. So if you know anybody, really, I'll just take another second. Like, you got Big Fish Foundation.
I fucking love you, bro. Yeah, of course you should.
This is new to me. I never do this promotion. This is brand new to me.
Dude,
you know this. I don't do this. You know?
Why do you think my question was very deliberate when I said, "Hey,
I know." I was like, "Hey,
are you guys
what?
having people talk about
Will.
this, or you guys
just trust Will, man?"
But man, like, I tell you this much from like what we've done and how we've been able to raise money and do certain things with our careers. Hearing a rep talk about Tosh and his accreditations and the medals and the achievements he's had, and then what he's going to do. Hearing that from a sales rep that works for BF, Row Company, and hearing it from Tosh, and here's what we're doing, and here's where we're bringing awareness, and this is our cause. People get behind you, right? Like, not that reps can't do a good job and find people that need to dump money for taxes or whatever reason. They want to put it to good causes. Of course, there's that. But I do think there's a lot of people that are eager to get behind people like you. There's not that many real ones out there, and like, yeah, it involves a little bit of self-promotion, but it's with the utmost of great intentions toward a phenomenal cause where you're putting your reputation and your commitment and your effort on the line, and you're also doing this with someone, shaking hands and saying, hey, here's what I'm about. Here's what we're doing. Watch, and like, it's not gloating, but I just wonder if there's anybody in your circle that would be so excited to back something that you're doing, and they got an invite through a conversation with you.
Well, that's part of it, man. It gives other people, like, that's it, giving other people a gift, man, to be able to support somebody else, and that's one of those things, unless it's spoken about or unless there's an ask.
People are missing intimacy.
They want to be able to help, and they want to be able to give. Yeah.
They miss that intimacy.
We're going to try and do it too. It's cool that you guys are saying this. This is really encouraging, because it's something that, you guys know I struggle with it a lot. People on my podcast know that I struggle with it a lot, but to get that feedback and that reinforcement, I want to do it in a classy way. Again, we talked earlier of like reputation. I don't want to jeopardize a reputation. It's been so hard because I'm being gimmicky or I'm doing this or doing that, and I want people to understand that it's authentic and real. And I don't engage in partnerships because some other motive. It's because I feel that the partnerships are engaging and real and authentic and valuable for everybody. And we're designing this so that we're 4 people in a shell rowing, but the endeavor, it's a collective experience, and everybody's going to do their part. So we're working with designing some creative ways so that we'll tell stories of veterans that have lost their lives in service, through time, and we're going to dedicate 10 miles. Every 10 miles of the road is going to be dedicated to a new service member and tell a story, and we're going to work on a means to promote that so that we can remember these individuals and do their families justice, invite them to be part of the team, and other people in that cloud space to be part of the success. So when it's like, hey, so when we do arrive in Antigua, in 28 days and 2 hours, beating the world record by over 24 hours, it'll be all of us. Not just the 4 of us that were on the shell, but everybody that was part of the collective. And we want to be sure that we really do it in such a way that's honest and authentic, for everybody. So
people love giving, man. Like, so that's something that him and we've had conversations about. And I got that from Tony Robbins. He does this dinner every year. I don't know if it's around the holidays or not. I think it is, but it's for his close friends, like the close circle you're talking about. And his close circle has kind of grown over the years, and there's a lot more people. And maybe he only sees them once or twice a year, but they're still super important to him, and they're valuable. And every year he takes them all to dinner, and that bill has gotten significantly bigger over time. And he's like, "Yep, and I do." He's like, "I do well, I do okay." Like, fuck you, Tony, right? But like, "Hey, I do well, and I'm proud to do it." And he goes, "One year, we're having dinner and everything is kind of like settling down. People having some drinks and the bills come in." And one of my friends who's grown an incredible business, who I've had a great relationship with, steps up and he's goes to pay for the bill. And Tony's like, "No, hey, like, no, I got this, man. And like, this is my thing. And this and that and that and this." And he goes, "Hey, man, don't take this from me. I've been at your dinners for this many years. And because of you and some of the people at this table, I'm now here and I can do this, Bill. And he's like, man, the gift of letting somebody give was incredible. And like, you've seen it through some of these private Facebook groups where we've raised some money, you know, even if it's $5, $10, $200, empowering people to get behind and back a real story, a real cause. People are missing that substance in their life and the way they feel to even to just contribute what's substantial for them. Like, man, like, now we get so humble or so not talkative to the point where we're pretentious because we expect people to seek us and find us somehow. But we're these speakeasies. But there's real causes going on, and it lights people up to be able to say, man, I'm proud I gave to that. Look at these dudes, and you've seen it. And it, you know, in the where him and I kind of stand firm on is just the integrity at whatever we're doing. If there's any involvement of people making contributions, that there's integrity behind whatever we're supporting or whatever we're talking and doing. If we believe in what we're doing and we feel good about what we're doing, yeah, that's okay. And people, man, just in that private Facebook group for that 75 hard, man, like just the stories people are talking about, just some of these guys are you know, starting to complete it, and like, but they got to give to veterans, and they felt good about doing that. And like, hey, who are we to take an opportunity from anyone that can give? And that's not up to us. What's up to us is to expose people to opportunities. Just make sure there's integrity behind what you're doing and who you partner with. I think that's the big deal.
And there's the full circle that we started talking about, being a good motherfucker and your reputation and being surrounded by people that you value and always trying to give value and ensuring that you're earning and not entitled. Like it's cool how this all, like it is, it really is.
And the depth, right? Like with that group, it was like, man, what's the value add? Well, content. Because everybody that joined that group that donated to Big Fish, we're super proud of it. But then they all started like creating their own content and their own achievements, their own highs, their own lows. They'd get support from people.
It feeds itself.
Eric and I would go in and talk and give a couple of lesson plans here and there. And I was more talking to Eric. My role was more in support of Eric because I'm the one that brought the idea to him. This was his group. And he had me on it, but it was more friendship and mindset with him versus me taking over his group. But he did a great job with it. And like, that's where I just love just the idea of like some things with Diesel Days you don't want to show because you want it to be unknown. You don't want people training all year for a Diesel Day.
You lose the magic.
But for something like you guys are doing right now, man, just could you imagine a group where like people get a peek in and see Tosh training for a fucking Atlantic row and just
it'd be dope.
Seeing who's all about.
Yeah.
And,
we're gonna launch a group. We're gonna launch a group. You guys have been motivating me.
You see how I'm obligating into a group through the podcast?
I've been saying that I'm gonna do it. I'm actually we're close. We're close to doing it. I've been making some big steps in the last few weeks of getting things done.
Break down those, and I know we're almost done, but I have a question. So break down the veteran stories that you had mentioned. So every 10 miles is going to be dedicated, or what was that?
Yeah, we're going to retell the stories of veterans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in efforts of service, in spirit of service to our country. But really they've given the sacrifice on foreign lands, right? To benefit other countries, our country, political, you can sort of
killed in action,
right? Like whatever. But so we're gonna remember their names, and we're gonna during the every 10 miles or every period of time for the duration of our row, it's gonna be dedicated to a different service member and an opportunity to relive that service member's life. Doesn't have to be the action that it took, but the action that it took and where it took place will be for our timeline event for when we do it, but we'll share something about that person, who they were, just relive the joy of what that person, who that person was and what they did. You know,
that might be a good sponsorship opportunity right there. If a person could sponsor a veteran story for X amount of dollars or something like that, and you're going and you're reading these guys' stories, and you're like, man, I'm connecting with this guy. Like, that's crazy. Hey,
we're working with this company called EP and Co. Con Williamson, good buddy of mine, and he's got these great ideas. So hopefully we'll get this storyboarded and laid out. You know, we're in the middle of trying to get some website development done. And we're trying to get the appropriate 501c3 to be able to collect the money and pass it through towards the endeavor, so that we can be on have full transparency. It's something that we've all agreed upon and promised. We live our life that way anyways, with what we're doing. You know, we want to start. We've got our team Shut Up and Row Instagram that's starting to get populated now. We're that's the name of our team. just really starting to get started and
Cool.
getting some traction. And I'm hoping to get my fingers on one of these. It's funny because we got the pitch out to them. Supposedly it's supposed to be on the way. I don't know or not, but there's this rowing machine called the Hydro.
Yeah.
And it's basically the Peloton of rowing machines.
It's like real water. And
No, it uses a magnetic
shit.
resistance instead
Okay.
of an airfoil.
yeah.
For air resistance, but it's got the computer screen and you plug in and you work out and you can go to anywhere in the world and you can do a row session. You can go with people.
But they have the screen,
the virtual
and all that stuff.
connectivity.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so what it'll be is like, yeah, hey, 2 a.m, Tosh is rowing to train. You can dial in and we can row together.
That's cool.
And it'd be a great tool for us as a team who's, Brian's here in Colorado Springs, just south of us. Chris is in Alexandria and Jim's up in Montana. And so we're remote locations trying to work and train together, but to have
You could literally train
virtual
together.
training sessions
That's
like that
cool.
and invite other people to be part. It'll help keep the motivation going.
Great idea.
And then again, it'll be part of like, hey, at 2 o'clock in the morning, every third Wednesday of the month, you're rowing with Tosh for 3 hours.
Listen, it's
during his
not
training.
advice.
Like, you're
It's not
part
advice.
of.
I do that.
Yeah.
You're part of the win.
You're part
You're
of
gonna-
the story.
You're part of the win.
You're
you
gonna
know?
get what you pay for. How about that? Is that the right way to say it? You're gonna get. I think it's really cool. I think very rarely do people have an opportunity to just be exposed and feel like they're a part of something. And as much as we can bash social media sometimes for just how people choose to use it, man, like there's also so many cool things on how we can use it. And just imagine like where you guys are at on that tracker, or if there's any cameras out there, just certain cool checkups from a group and being able to be a part of that, and like going out in your garage and rowing or whatever you're doing. But just that, not only are you able to pay to a cause, but then it also just sparks something in yourself to just take action for you, and just keeping those things in mind as you go better yourself. And the integrity behind it's great, which is why we 1,000% back stuff like that.
Yeah.
We should probably have you back on before you go.
Somebody should call Hydro and say, "Hey, dude, heard about Tosh talking about you guys. You better get behind him and support him because
Hydro, who's Hydro?
the
The rower.
Oh, the rowers.
Yeah,
Do you like
someone
those
hit 'em up.
rowers?
I don't know. I want to get I've heard cool things about him. I want to get my hands on one.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they just sent me one.
I've seen those, and I'm like, if I asked Tosh about that, would he be like, stop being a bitch and get back on your concept too?
Well, I love the Concept 2. You know, I
That's
got a
good.
great relationship with Concept 2. I mean, they're the go-to.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
But there's something attractive. It's just like people, Peloton, think what you want about them. They're changing people's lives. I know
people
people
moving.
that have lost 50, 60 pounds. I know
Yeah.
people that have taken themselves, eliminated type 2 diabetes just by doing a Peloton, like just like CrossFit or whatever. It's
yeah.
changing people's lives. And it's creating connectivity with people that are disconnected, especially at really, really hard times.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're suffering from depression, but I know that, hey, like I get on in the morning and at 8 o'clock, I got my 8 o'clock. Who's to say that I'm not the source or you're not the
true.
source of me staying alive?
That's
Or
true.
just being able to have a good day because I get to do my 1 hour bike ride with you at 8 a.m. in the morning. Man. Like they're doing great things.
It's true.
And just recognizing that, whether you like the interest or you don't, whether it's your flavor or not,
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If, recognize that they're doing great things.
And hey, flip that to yourself. If you're listening right now, realize, hey, if watching a big screen and distracting yourself, or having a goal of like watching a row on a screen, or doing your the Peloton and having a screen, if it's not for someone else because they're quote unquote tougher than you, like it doesn't matter. Just know who you are. Be so okay with who you are, and if that gets you up and gets you going, more than okay. It's better than doing nothing for sure.
Yeah.
And some of those folks are kicking ass on those things.
True story.
Yep. We're gonna have you back on soon. We're gonna be holding you to some of these things.
We're
It'll be
drinking
fun
next time.
Oh man, I can't wait to get
We're
back.
drinking
in that.
next
I can't wait to
time.
get back
I
in
feel
that
like
bottle.
he's paying us back because like we went and hung out with him one time, but we were on 75 hard and couldn't something.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, you guys are fucking weird."
This podcast was out there enough.
This
I can
podcast
only
is
imagine
sponsored,
if
brought
this
to you
were
by
like-
water.
Is
Yeah.
anybody even listening at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Are we 3 hours in?
Yeah, we're 3 hours in.
220.
220? Jeez.
You're okay. We've had longer.
Oh, I believe it. I got to piss. I'm going to break the seal.
You're all good.
Yeah.
You take a piss. We'll give an outro.
Yeah.
And then I got to call Dan. While you guys were romanticizing over there,
Yeah.
Dan, your boy was
Oh, DB?
hollering at me.
Yeah,
so
tell
I'm
him,
gonna
hey,
call him up while you're on the pisser.
we got to do a selfie too. There was something else.
Yep.
Oh, we got to
There we
talk
go.
about the 75 hard thing too. Remind me of that.
Me?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. offline. We don't need to talk
Okay,
about it on
got
air.
it. Oh, no.
But yeah, hey guys, thanks a ton, man. Anything for you guys. I appreciate you even asking to come down.
Man, we would love to have you on once a quarter.
What a great time.
Yeah,
or whenever
you
you got
guys
time,
come
just
down.
because there's so many different. I know you got a piece. I'm like seeing how long I can keep you on this mic.
Break the
You
seal.
can't hurt me.
There's so many different topics of discussion that we could have, and obviously I want to just keep funneling people to your podcast where they can really hear them, where you've got some time with your, me not interrupting you and you having your own thoughts, but there's so many just different things we could have on, to this audience that I think would be valuable. And man, we want to constantly just make sure that we're supporting you the best that we can and having you back on, just like how Joe Rogan has some of his friends on that are super valuable and important. He's got Elon Musk on 3 or 4 times now. Like, it would be really cool if, when time permits, having you on, once a quarter to just progress the conversation and to also just give current events and what you're up to and what you're doing and just helping other folks just get after it.
Right on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate what you guys do.
Right on.
Basically, I just learned that I don't need to I can tell Joe Rogan no because I got day $1.0.
Done, bro.
Will and
Mate,
fucking
just
Elon.
made my whole.
Done.
But before you say no to him, you could just say, I want to bring my
I
homies.
want to bring my homies.
Yeah. Your entourage.
Hey, man, I like the dialogue. I think, like, having your thoughts challenged and questioned by somebody else or reflected back to you so that you can challenge and question your own thoughts. Like, I enjoy that.
It's a good conversation,
it makes
man.
us better.
Yeah,
it makes
it does.
us better when you do that.
100%. It's just seeing similar or same topics from different lenses and how people digest. And I think the biggest lessons I've ever gotten from podcasts is hearing people digest their own thoughts and perspectives and feeling those pivots, as I listen to them. And we really try to create that here, whether it's him and I going back and forth or having a guest on. I like the evolvement of thought from start to finish, not trying to be super polished and have like a mission to deliver a statement, but keeping things open-ended and leaving it open-ended for people to kind of take that with them as they leave the podcast and they start their week or whatever they're doing to kind of answer those questions for themselves. But it's cool having just high-level people on that we respect that can contribute.
Right on, bro.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna go pee on your seat.
But he sits down.
And
to pee.
I know you're gonna know I peed on it because you sit down to pee. So.
That's right.
I just said, I literally, as your headphones were off, I literally
You
just
did.
said that.
You guys know each other too well.
Appreciate you guys listening. Hey, we've got a really cool sponsorship that's kind of gone, that's coming to fruition with Synergy One Lending, and really respect those guys. That's our first sponsorship. We've we shy away from that kind of stuff, and we've really wanted to be just do things the right way with this podcast and have integrity to our audience. But Eric Colby and Synergy One over there, and the Scott Leffert, one of our primary dudes over there, they've been such a huge support with everything we do in real estate, and they were super stoked and wanted to get involved with the podcast at scale as well, and we were super happy to have them on. So they're contributing a sponsorship to us and helping us grow, and we super appreciate them. So we're going to be giving those guys a shout out from here on out. But if you guys have not checked out Synergy One Lending or looked up Eric Colby and guys like Scott Leffert over there, super great dudes. We've been working with them for a long time. We're super appreciative for what they do for us. And if you guys have any questions on them or on us, please hit us up. Otherwise, find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, Facebook, your mama's house, whatever's clever. Enjoy your guys' day.
Take care, guys. Thanks for listening. Day $1.0
out.
All the same, but exemptions I need.